Welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am the Acronologist, GSIMONE.
And of course, I am the teacher, KRS-ONE.
The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation ministry, archive, school, and society, approaching hip hop as a divinely inspired global culture for peace and prosperity. Today, we are going to be talking about the movement, our movement, the Temple of Hip Hop's movement that has been moving for the last over 30 years. Some of you have been with us for at least 10 years, 15 years. We appreciate you. We thank you for being here. And know that, things take time and sometimes longer than we expect, but when they come strong and they come good. So we welcome everyone new here and we applaud everyone who has been here with us for so long. Let me say this, wishing you all health, love, awareness, and wealth, a great week, and now the teacher. Peace.
Word. Good looking GSIMONE. That was hot. I'll jump to the center here and get it started. Welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. Every Sunday we do this at about 12 o'clock. We get down just like this. Shout out to Minister Sun One. Big up to Minister Zinaru and everyone else part of this organization, part of the Temple of Hip Hop. Our work is important in the sense that not that we're pinning medals on ourselves or bigging ourselves up in that kind of way, but after a janitor cleans the floor, the janitor looks at the floor and says, "Job well done." After the maid or housekeeper comes in to a house that's dusty and needs cleaning, and now the house is what they call spick and span, clean, squeaky clean and smelling good, you look back on your work and you go, I did that and that was dope. This is our work as a Temple of Hip Hop in our culture. We're not bragging about the work that we have to do for our children, but when the work is good, it's good. When you know you've done what you're supposed to do, you look back on the work and you're like, yeah, this is it. This is what was supposed to happen, and it happened. That's what this theme is today. We're reading about the movement. We're talking about the movement. Last week we talked about the teacher and the character of the teacher, how to become a hip-hop teacher. And when you become that hip-hop teacher, most likely you begin to join in on hip-hop's cultural movement. We're up to that now. It's the 12th overstanding. I think, let me take a look at the page here. 12th overstanding, which is the movement. Yes, 12th overstanding, which is the movement. I'm not reading yet. I'm actually on page 494. If you have your gospel, go ahead and turn to page 494. We're not reading it yet. Just want to have a few more announcements before we start. But the point is that the movement. This is a very important read for us today. And like I said, we're going to go slow. We have a film presentation within this study we need you to see. Some of you have already seen this film presentation as well. If you've been with us about the last 3 years, we must have played this about 3 years ago, 2 years ago. We were doing a different study, a different type of study, but nonetheless the same type of study. We were studying the movement. And when we're studying the movement, we like to come with evidence. We like to come with proof. We like to come with tangible material backing for what it is we're saying. I'll say this as well. A lot of people have contributed a lot to hip-hop as music. Hip-hop as rap music is highly debatable because a lot of people contributed to it, to what its origin is. But hip-hop as culture is far less debatable. It's less debatable because only a few people participated in the foundation of that as culture. Only a few people really understood hip-hop as culture like that. And thank God that the founders of hip-hop understood hip-hop like that. That's not a given, Everybody didn't understand, and all the founders of hip-hop did not understand. All the pioneers and movers and shakers of the 70s and early 80s, they didn't see hip-hop as a full-blown out legitimate culture, something you could live your life by and this, that, and the other. All of them didn't see it that way. Only a few of us saw it that way and was living that way. Remember, a lot of hip-hoppers had jobs. You would come to MC after work. You was a B-boy, B-girl after school. This was not a life that like I'm living now. This not you couldn't live hip hop like that. So the idea here with this particular teaching is that the movement shows us that when it comes to living the culture of hip hop itself and then teaching it, which is the point I'm trying to get out of my mouth here, and teaching it, you got to have tangible evidence. A lot of people did a lot of things, but they have no evidence for it. I did a lot of stuff within hip hop, contributed to hip hop, but I have no evidence for it. Even the birth of hip hop, 1520, Sedgwick Avenue, August 11th, 1973, Back to School Jam. There's no recording of it. There's not even a photo of it. And this is what what I want to point out here: the differentiation between one teaching and another kind of teaching, a strong teaching versus a weaker teaching. And this is what I also want to point out about the Temple of Hip Hop and its cultural significance and your value and importance studying with the Temple of Hip Hop. You see, like I said before, hip hop as rap music is debatable. Everybody can say, I did this, I did that, I did the other. And there's probably some evidence for it. But hip hop as culture is far less debatable because only a few people did the work. Now, the teacher that's on your screen right now is one who has done the work. I, with others, have done the work to establish hip hop as a legitimate global culture of peace and prosperity. We did the work, so we have the knowledge. And we also have the authority. Not just the intellectual authority because we did the work, so we have the knowledge, we have the understanding, we know what we're talking about. But we also have spiritual authority. And that's why we are a temple of hip hop. Because whereas other people derive their authority from the books that they may read, or like say, they say, okay, so it starts with Kool Herc, Zulu Nation, Kool Herc, Africa Bambaataa, Zulu Nation, Grandmaster Flash, Furious Five, Sugar Hill, even Cold Crush Brothers in there, Rock Steady in there, and others in there like Dougie Fresh as well. In it, these are early pioneers. Slubug Starsky as well, Chief Rocker, Busy B. This in there like that. These are the names you quote when studying hip hop and coming from that root. You say, look, where do you derive your authority to teach hip hop? From the root of Kool Herc, from the root of Zulu Nation, from the root of this. I'm, embedded in the culture. I have knowledge of the culture. I know how this thing really started. Now that's surface. That's the standards. But the Temple of Hip Hop is unique in the sense that your founder and teacher, KRS-ONE, was also there when Kool Herc started. You see, when Kool Herc started in 1973, some intelligence of this universe, the great spirit, the great event, something, planted my family at the precise moment that Kool Herc was starting hip hop. And then inspired my mother, moved my mother to take a photo of it. Okay, now, if you're still here, you got to think about the odds of this. KRS-ONE, or this young 8-year-old who would become KRS-ONE later on. Nobody knew about the KRS-ONE. The word hip-hop didn't even exist. Rap was nowhere. This is the Bronx in 1973. This is it. The Vietnam War is going on, by the way. These are the things going on. Heroin everywhere and this kind of stuff. They burn it, starting to burn the Bronx down too, to get the insurance money and all this type of stuff. This is what we growing up in. Okay, this is what we growing up in. So here's the uniqueness of the Temple of Hip Hop. Your founder was there at the same time that Kool Herc started. So if hip hop has any kind of spiritual beginning, that spiritual or cultural beginning begins there at 1600 Sedgwick Avenue with KRS-ONE. It begins with Herc, Cindy, even Siobhan Dean and Y&D, and they were there too. Rough Riders was there too. during that same time. I think even Herc even talks about borrowing equipment from their father or something like that during that time. We were all there during this time, but it was KRS-One that went ahead and started a temple for hip hop. And this is the weird piece right here, because a temple for hip hop, yes, we're dealing with the philosophical, the metaphysical, the spiritual aspects of hip hop, as well as its cultural, musical, this kind of stuff, so on. We're looking at that spiritual piece. How did I get there in 1973? 8 years old, I'm there. Now later on, this guy would pick up rap music, graffiti writing, DJing, beatboxing, all this stuff, and then become KRS-One, and then open a temple of hip hop, who would teach hip hop and need the photos for evidence of what he teaches. This is the intricate part of becoming a hip hop teacher, where the universe is guiding you toward the teaching, and you be wise to close your mouth and take a look at what the universe is asking you, or teaching you, I should say. Asking you to become, and teaching you how to become it. Absolutely. So let's just look at this. You got me thinking about 1973. What's my point? My point here is that first of all, to become a hip hop teacher, you got to be guided in such ways. But the uniqueness of the temple of hip hop is that your founder and teacher does not derive his authority to teach hip hop from Kool Herc or from Zulu Nation or so on. I am in alignment with these founders. Yes, I am. But I was also there. This is the difference here. I was also there. I documented my own life. I remember where I was, what I did, all the way up to this, becoming KRS-One. All of it is hip hop, just like the whole life of Herc, Jazzy J, and Africa Bambaataa, and Red Alert, and all of these people. Their whole lives became the lives of hip hop. This is the history we speak, is their lives. And you should remember that too for the future. I always mention that what we do in the day is going to affect the kids, how they live in the future. Our very lives, what we are doing and saying and being, is going to become a heritage in the future. What are we doing, saying, and being then? This is why we got to appreciate hip hop. Let me run down a few of these announcements real quick before we get into our read and the importance of this movement. Hip Hop Appreciation Week, May 16th to the 22nd, we are appreciating hip hop. Hip Hop Appreciation Week, May 16th to the 22nd, 2022. And our theme this year is breaking. You guys will know, I mentioned it last week before as well, that what we're doing now starting this year is we're going to rotate the 9 elements. We're rotating the 9 elements. Breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. We're starting with breaking. This year's theme is breaking. Next year's theme will be MCing. Next year's theme will be graffiti art. I'm just sitting there scratching my leg. Graffiti art. After that, DJing. After that, beatboxing. All the way to street entrepreneurialism, and then we continue back up again on breaking. So just realize that as well. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to turn your gospels to it, but I'm just going to read here and make sure we have this down. I know I read it before, but I'm just going to go ahead and read it again as well. I'm on page 388, and I'm reading about Hip Hop Appreciation Week. This year, again, May 16th to the 22nd, 2022. Get the word out. Get the word out. As Temple members, get the word out about Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And here's how you celebrate the week. During Hip Hop Appreciation Week, artists can be asked to give sound advice on what they've learned about life and living hip hop. Schools of all sorts can be encouraged to discuss hip hop academically and critically. Radio DJs can be encouraged to upgrade their play of conscious rap music over the airwaves. During Hip Hop Appreciation Week, the hip hop community is encouraged to, and here's some pointers, give the next person the right of way. Allow people to pass you. Do not block a person's forward movement. Now, I went over this lesson before, and I don't need to get into it now, but this is about your character. This is the week we're coming up on, Hip Hop Appreciation Week. This is about your character. Donate your skill or profession to someone who cannot afford it. At the supermarket, give your change to the person behind you in line. Be quick to compliment and show to criticize. Be quick to compliment and slow to criticize. Be ready also to forgive and move on. Give 10% of your salary to your child's teacher. Ease a neighbor's pressure by donating your time toward the ease of some duty they must undertake. Donate your time, donate your talent. This is basically about character. That's what that is about. And so we use that Hip Hop Appreciation Week time to reflect on life, reflect on living, teach our kids about hip hop, talk to them, put a certain kind of film on, and just let me watch Beat Street. I know I've seen it 100 times. Let me throw it on right now for the week and just let this play through the house real quick. Let my kids make sure they see it. This is that time right now. Celebrate your culture. Bring your culture importance by treating it important. If the only reason Christmas is important is because everybody treats it important. Does a guy got to be standing there with a gun for you to be treating something important? No. Have some self-respect. Hip Hop Appreciation Week is one of 4 hip hop holidays, holy days, holy months, that we celebrate every 3 months throughout the year. We went over that lesson as well. I'll get into that later. We have a long lesson today because I'm going to show you a film that deals with our read, which is the movement. Let me just finish up with Hip Hop Appreciation Week, though. So again, Hip Hop Appreciation Week, May 16th to the 22nd, 2022. And that's how you celebrate the week, everything I just said. However, I will be getting busy during Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And I mention this to you because in about a week, maybe next week, next Sunday, we will have a location for where I'm shooting the next project at. The next project is a mixtape. I'm putting together a mixtape, a short mixtape, 7-song mixtape, sort of an EP, celebrating Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And what we're going to do is record video for all 7 songs. So it's going to come out during Hip Hop Appreciation Week as a 7-song live performance by KRS-ONE honoring Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Raw lyrics, you know what it is. Hard beats, you know what it is. Consciousness hooked, linked with that street craziness. That's what we're dealing with. We're going to be bringing it right there. And so if you want to be in that video, next week we'll have a location. We'll be pointing it out. We hope to have a location next week. Let me put it that way. We're still putting it together. But stay tuned. When the time comes, it'll come. But the point is that we're shooting that video. If you want to be part of that, stay tuned and fly in. We're going to shoot it in Atlanta. Come on in, fly in, be part of the video. It'll be hot. You want to be in this. It's going to be dope. And so that's Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And again, this is only for our temple. This is only for our temple. Of course, we may have extras that are there, that are here in Atlanta, because we're going to fill the place up, and I'm going to perform all 7 songs video style, and then we chop it and make it into a presentation, and we're going to release it during Hip Hop Appreciation Week, so the world then gets to jam with us during that time. And then of course the mixtape will be streaming during that time as well. So we're promoting the week like that. Hip Hop Appreciation Week, we're coming off like that. And you can be part of that as well. And so that is it. That is it for Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Let's get right to the read and then get into the film. Turn your gospel to page 494. I'm reading the 12th Overstanding, the Movement. And like I said at the beginning of this, what's important about this read is that we are not bragging, nor pointing, pinning medals on ourselves and trying to get some aggrandizement going here. That's not what this is. But it is awkward to talk about what you did in that sense without sounding like, you're just all into yourself. So please excuse this read, because this is not an objective read. This is what we did. Okay, this is not an objective read. This is the life we experienced, and then what we did to counter that life and survive really in that life. This is what it is, and this is the type of teaching that the Temple of Hip Hop is about. So as scholars, you got to know that as well. We're not all objective, just reading books and treating our own lives even objective. No, a lot of us have forgotten what it is that we were doing, and so we wrote it down. You'll notice a lot of the pioneers of hip hop forgot what they said, made promises, said all types of stuff, and now they forgot. And so the job of the scribe or the priesthood of a culture is to write it down and make sure we don't forget. And say, no, remember, this is the plan. This is what we said. When we all got together, this is what we said we were going to do. This is what we knew we needed to achieve, and so on. Now, everybody ran off and said, okay, I forgot, I don't know, my life changed, this, that, and this. Some have died. Some people are part of this. Some people who are a part of this are not even here anymore. Imagine that. So we are continuing that mission on, and that's what this movement is about. Not many people can claim that they were part of hip-hop as a cultural movement. Not today everyone could claim that. Hip-hop as culture is a standard thing now. Anybody can claim that. But we're talking about the beginning, when everyone wasn't claiming it. And as scholars, you got to know that. You got to know this part, so that when things start going crazy, you could go back to it and say, no, the original is this. No, the original was that. No, when we all got together, this is what we said. And that's why we want evidence. That's why we want precedence. We want history. We want to look at something that was documented the day the thing happened. And then from there, we could derive our knowledge, our understanding, our whatever we need from there. We get an original source. And that's what makes the temple unique as well, the Temple of Hip Hop. That's what makes the Temple of Hip Hop unique, is that we rest on that. We've done the work. We wrote the first gospel for hip hop. We wrote the first science of rap. No bragging. This is just what we did. And this is the cultural elements of hip hop. We co-started the Source magazine and Blaze magazine. I mean, Hot 97, BET's Rap City, Yo MTV Raps. You know what I'm saying? You'll notice that some of you that know, that have the history, I have to go back and point it out, but like people like Jonathan Demme, who did Silence of the Lambs, the director for Silence of the Lambs and Philadelphia and Manchurian Candidate. This was our homie. This is the early days. I mean, he only had Silence of the Lambs out, and he was rolling with us, and this is him. This is hip hop as culture, not as a race or a music genre and so on. Look at his nephew. You'll see it in the film. Ted Demme, his nephew, Ted Demme, is the founder of Yo MTV Raps, and he's listening to us, and we're telling him, yo, we're not getting what we need to get. And we know what hip-hop is all about. And he says, yo, I got you. Starts Yo MTV Raps, got Public Enemy on there. Why? Because BET wouldn't play us. And that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And it's always like that after you start something. We go in there, we the first at Rap City, started Rap City. You know what I'm saying? Back with the mayor and all this, was Rap City. Now they got a little fame to, push us out. And scholars got to notice, I'm not criticizing nobody, but this is hip hop's real history. That's the part. This is the real. If you don't know this part, then you're in La La Land. You just going. Your scholarship of hip hop is what the radio and television is telling you hip hop is. You're not getting it from the source. So here you're getting it from the source. And not only are you getting it from this source, you're getting it from this source, which is a documented source. Let's read. I'm on page 494. I'm only reading up to paragraph 13, and I stop because that's what we're going to show the film. The rest of it, you get to see the documentation and so on. And let me just say this: that some of the transcription that goes on here, you'll be able to see. Look, we're going to show a video that has the gospel of hip hop's words, the words that this particular, the transcription of the meeting that we had in 1994. We're going to show you the video of it. And as you watch the video, you can read the gospel and see word for word what was said. You'll see the accuracy word for word. You'll watch the video and see the word in the gospel. But this way you can see the face now and see this, that, and the other, and so on. And you'll notice that this is how the knowledge was gathered. That's what makes our gospel so unique and so important to our culture. We're not just writing what we think. We documented what was said. We documented what was said. And that's why I say we all did a lot of stuff. But what's the important stuff? What do we have evidence for? What do we have to keep coming back to? Let's read. In 1987, Africa Bambaataa held a cipher discussion at the Latin Quarter nightclub in Manhattan, New York. The topics included the unionizing of rap artists and the further development of hip hop the further development of hip hop as its influence began to expand beyond the New York area. Now check out what's going on here, okay? Remember, hip hop was only in New York. First, hip hop was only in the Bronx. I know you can't even think about that. Then hip hop was only in New York. Imagine that. Only generated out of New York. Everybody was hearing it all over the world and all over the nation, but it was generated out of New York only. And everybody was imitating New York artists. Run DMC, LL Cool J, Fat Boys. They were imitating these dudes all over the world. Because that's all there was that was being shown. And so, in 1987, Africa Bambaataa, Zulu Nation, held a meeting. See, think about this for a minute, okay? We're not just sitting around letting people rob us. Okay? We're seeing what's going on. I'm going to read on. You're going to see. So New York is starting to leave, hip-hop is starting to leave New York. And we're seeing it happen. Here's what happened. At this discussion, with about 50 prominent rap artists, DJs, journalists, b-boys, girls, graffiti writers, and other activists present, Africa Bambaataa argued that without organization and unity, hip-hop would simply become a mass plantation of talented people all working toward the benefit of several corporations. That already happened. Why did it happen? Because when this was said, nobody took Africa Bambaataa seriously or Zulu Nation seriously. It was he, ha, ha, and yeah, okay, And then now look. There's only like 3 record companies, like 3. You working for Twitter, Facebook. These people now. 2 or 3, 3 or 4 corporations now. Bunch of talented people all working for 3 or 4. Why? Because rappers did not unionize when they were supposed to. Everybody wanted to do their own thing. And that's documented. You got to know that in the first 3 paragraphs, in the first 3 paragraphs of this, you got to know that. Know that it was already said. We saw what was happening and went against it, but others saw what was happening and joined in on it. Look at this. Let's read on. This discussion ended with Daddy-O of Stetsasonic predicting the fall of New York's dominance over the rap music industry and the rise of the West Coast with an MC called Too Short. I was there. I remember Daddy-O saying, yo, the West Coast is popping, specifically Oakland, San Francisco, the Bay Area. Yo, it's popping over there. He mentioned about this guy named Too Short who was selling cassettes out the trunk of his car and getting money. And dudes was like, word? And it was like, and New York was doing that already. Zulu Nation and them was selling cassettes. But this dude was running it, Too Short was running it like a company. Like he was, he was doing his thing. And so Daddy-O of Stetsasonic said this at the meeting. During this historic meeting, everyone pledged to do their part to protect hip-hop's cultural development. It was around this time, 1987, that we began to think of hip-hop as a culture. Do you get that? Around 1987, this is when we started thinking about hip-hop as a culture. Others have mentioned it. Like, right around this time, people are saying, yeah, hip-hop culture. We're starting to say that, hip-hop culture. But what makes the Temple of Hip-Hop unique is that we did the actual work. Others have spoken about it, yes. Others have supported us in our movement, yes. But the Temple of Hip-Hop did the actual work, took hip-hop to the United Nations and declared it an international culture of peace and prosperity in the face of those that needed to hear it. Like UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. We needed to have them there to say, oh yes, we recognize. We needed Kofi Annan's office at the time. He was the UN Secretary General. We needed him to recognize that. We needed Riverside Church to recognize. We needed the synagogue to recognize. We needed the mosque to recognize. We needed New York City Hall to recognize. We needed local politicians, Manhattan Council, Bronx Borough presidents, and all of this work had to get done. And it was expensive work too. We had to spend money, this, that, and the other. We did the work. And that's why we have the knowledge. But listen, we're talking about back in 1987. Let's go back. Listen to this. And look, this will say, let me read this one more time. During this historic meeting, everyone pledged to do their part to protect hip-hop's cultural development. All these meetings we're having, okay? This is one of the first ones. This is probably the first one where everybody got together. And we all pledged that we was going to do something for hip-hop's development. It was around this time, 1987, that we began to think of hip-hop as a culture. But the streets were extremely dangerous during these times. Many hip-hoppers got caught up in the emerging crack cocaine drug scene. Automatic weapons found their way onto the streets of New York and into the hands of hip-hoppers. When armed, most hip-hoppers used their weapons to protect themselves against the lawlessness of the streets, while others used their weapons for robberies, kidnappings, murders, and intimidation. But when when DJ Scott LaRock was killed in the Bronx trying to break up a street dispute, all hip-hoppers were saddened. You know the story. DJ Scott LaRock, my DJ, he was a social worker, and I was what is called a client in the shelter. I was a homeless dude in the shelter, and he was the social worker that was helping homeless dudes get on their feet and do their thing. He found out I was an MC. I found out he was a DJ. We got together at Said G's house, which became Ultramagnetic MCs, Cool Keith and all of them. We got together over there and started the group Boogie Down Productions, and then the rest is history. But this dude was killed trying to break up a dispute with a third member of our group, some back then he was called D-Nice. Now he's DJ D-Nice, of course. You know him today as a world-famous DJ D-Nice. But back then he was the third member of BDP, and he was a beatboxer. He got into a little static with somebody, and Scott went to help him out, and all of them got shot at, and Scott got hit. And it saddens us even to this day. Even just thinking about it now, it's crazy. The loss, because he was a good brother, and he was a social worker out there trying to help people, and lost his life trying to help people. What a way to go out. You know what I'm saying? So when DJ Scott LaRock was killed in the Bronx trying to break up a street dispute, all hip-hoppers were saddened. He was the first. He was the first prominent hip-hopper to be killed with senseless street violence. Let me read on. It says it here. The drug wars of the 1980s broke all of the original street codes that protected and empowered hip-hop's community leaders. It became every man, woman for themselves. Many were killed. That untold story of what crack and cocaine did to the black and brown communities is ridiculous, okay? The story was never really told, really. The war zone that we was in. Look at it. The murder of Scott LaRock in August of 1987 was the first of its kind for the hip-hop community. However, Scott LaRock would not be the last prominent hip-hop artist that would be killed by the escalation of street violence caused by the introduction of crack cocaine and guns into predominantly black and brown neighborhoods. But as bad as things were then, we were still not powerless. The conscious hip-hop community, inspired by Africa Bambaataa, began to mobilize and organize against such violence. The police and other law enforcement agencies were not only powerless against the crack cocaine drug movement of the 1980s, but because of such powerlessness, many of them joined in on the sale of illegal drugs and guns within the black and brown communities. Black and brown leaders were also powerless, and many of them, fearing for their own lives, turned their heads when crack cocaine was being sold to young black and brown teenagers. From the east to the west coast of the United States, gangs of black and brown youths were enlisted and protected by American law enforcement agencies to terrorize black and brown neighborhoods as the drugs and guns flowed in. We knew this. This was written while it was happening. We knew we ended up on the 80s. I'm talking about the 80s, and this book was written prominently in the 90s and toward the latter part of the 90s, from 94 really all the way up to 2009. This was real time going on here. Real time going on. But look at what's being said. From the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States, gangs of black and brown youths were enlisted and protected by American law enforcement agencies to terrorize black and brown neighborhoods as the drugs and the guns flowed in. We knew this was what was going on. The police would drive right past known drug dealers on the corner selling the crack right there. Cop drives right past like if it was nothing. But you run that red light, or get your registration not right, or some stupidness. It's madness now. Guns gotta come out and all this stuff. We lived through this. We lived through it. Slow up on that for a minute and think about that. And those of us who have lived through it, think about what you survived, and think about those that didn't. Finally, in 1989, the violence and the lawlessness of the 1980s reached its peak when a young man was fatally stabbed at a rap concert in New York City for his jewelry. The then head of A&R for Jive Records, A&R means artists and repertoire, like the part of the record company that takes care of the artists. The head of A&R for Jive Records, Ann Carly Tokyo Rose, was so moved by the event that she approached author and activist Nelson George and I, KRS-ONE, to form a Stop the Violence movement based on a song that I had written 1 year earlier entitled Stop the Violence. Let's just go over that real quick one more time. Then we'll go slow. Finally, in 1989, the violence and the lawlessness of the 1980s reached its peak when a young man was fatally stabbed at a rap concert in New York City for his jewelry. Stop. Now, this is what was going on at rap concerts in the 1980s. Imagine this. See, this was back in the days where if you spit a whack rhyme, somebody would throw something at you from the audience. The Apollo was famous. The Apollo in Harlem was famous for this. People throwing stuff. They would come to the party with eggs and tomatoes, all types of stuff, to throw at you if you was whack. And mad fights broke out, and all types of stuff used to happen because of this. And look at this. I want you to see this part right here. Okay, this was a time where you could go into a party and you be rhyming, and there's like 3 or 4 people with guns in their waist, with a gun in their waist. Maybe 2 or 3 people in the crowd with guns, just armed, strapped, and like this. And everybody know them, and everybody know who they are. And they know what and everybody's cool, and we all chill, but we know he's strapped. And then every once in a while it got wild, and that strap came out, and you on stage rhyming. I wrote a record called Stop the Violence. It was so prevalent, dudes was getting in fights, razoring each other, stabbing each other, shooting. And a lot of times, I could, you know, they would interrupt the party. I tried to keep rhyming through it, like to make sure that the security could come and we not interrupt the party, but sometimes we get so wild. I wrote a song called Stop the Violence. Let me read on, because that's why I wrote the song. Rap concert in New York City, dude got stabbed for his jewelry. That was known. Women got their earrings yanked out, jewelry off. It was straight robbery at these rap concerts unless you came with a crew and was able to hold yours down. This is what it was like. Nothing like today, where you have, you know, a dude could be in his house, write a rhyme, I'm a killer, I'm killer. And people believe him. And he does a video, you know, and people believe him. Back when we were coming up, there was no video. First of all, if you had a video, you was on another level, okay, if you even had a video, okay. Most of us spit our rhyme, it was a cassette, and that's as far as you went. And your cassette had to be real. If you talked about that life, you had to be about that life. And this is what it was. If you claimed you was the dopest MC, you had to be the dopest MC. You had to prove that. And prove it in front of dudes with guns in their waist. And prove it in front of people who want to throw stuff at you. That's the real training. That's what you know. Every line got to be bang, 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 bang. Because I don't want you to even think about the tomato in your pocket. You're not even thinking about it. You're cheering me on, screaming, because these lines are so crazy. That's where we trained at. And in one of these instances, dude got stabbed for his jewelry, killed at the concert for his jewelry. Now get this. The then head of A&R and head of A&R for Jive Records, Ann Carly, Tokyo Rose, stop. This is an Asian woman, okay? This is an Asian woman. Tokyo Rose, okay? Japanese-American woman, Asian woman, okay? This is her. Now, and mind you, straight hip-hop, she's not in the history books nowhere. Well, she's in our history book. But this woman, her name is Ann Carly. She calls herself Tokyo Rose, and she was a DJ on WNWK, an early station for hip-hop. WHBI became WNWK. And that's where Red Alert started. That's where Zulu Nation started. That's where Chuck Chill Out starts. Jazzy J gets a start there. Teddy Ted and Special K gets a start there. A whole bunch of people, legendary DJs, all started this AM station called WHBI and WNWK, which it became that later on, WNWK. Well, Ann Carly was one of the DJs there. Early DJ there. She then became head of A&R for Jive Records. I was signed to Jive Records, so she was looking after KRS-ONE. Let's read on. The then head of A&R for Jive Records, Ann Carly, Tokyo Rose, the Asian connection, was so moved by the event, this dude getting killed, that she approached author activist Nelson George and I, KRS-ONE, to form a Stop the Violence movement based on a song that I had written 1 year earlier entitled Stop the Violence. 1, 2, 3, the crew is called BDP. And if you want to go to the tip top, stop the violence in hip hop. Y-O. That was all over the hood. Everybody was with that. That was a big hit record for me when it first came out. Ann was the A&R she was the person marketing, putting the record out. So she said, I want to start a whole movement based on this. And she approached me and Nelson George. Here's what happened. Between the three of us, we organized the production of a song called Self-Destruction. A chorus chant, the self-destruction, you're headed for self-destruction. That chorus chant was written by Dougie Fresh, with music produced by D Nice. Other artists such as Heavy D and the Boys, rest in peace Heavy D, and Trouble T. Roy, MC Light, Just Ice, MC Delight, Wise, Daddy-O, Fruit Quan, that's the Sonic, Kumo D, Miss Melody, rest in peace, and Public Enemy also donated their lyrical performances to this cause. And let me stop here because we're going to continue now next week. I'm going to show the film now. Because we stopped here because the next line, 14, the paragraph 14 says, I opened the song with the lyrics, today's topic, self-destruction. It really ain't the rap audience that's bugging. It's one or two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the mid. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right, not negative, because the way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives. That was my opening remark. Unity. Let's get this culture together. Let's bring ourselves together. Africa Bambaataa talking about unionizing rappers. This has been Queen Latifah came with UNITY. This is that other part of hip hop that these corporations and this corporate media wants to step on and push down and omit and disrespect and demean because it doesn't sell. It goes against their marketing. You know, if you actually know that this is a real culture that they're exploiting, and we have real principles and real history, and our real children are gonna look back on that. If you think of hip hop like that, you wouldn't go for nothing that they're putting out in mass media. You couldn't support that and support your children. So now let's watch this film because this concludes our read for this week. The film or the presentation is pretty long, and I want you to watch it. Those of you that have seen it again, refresh yourself as well. I'll be watching it as well. I won't return to the screen, so I'm going to say thank you for watching and being with the Temple of Hip Hop again another week. We're going slow with our reading of the 12th Overstanding, the movement, and again, every Sunday, 12 o'clock, we do it just like this. We read our gospel. We're reading it completely through, and at the end, we're going to declare hip-hop scholarship. Who is the scholar at the end of this read? We're highlighting certain points and certain parts of that, and that's what you'll be tested on, the highlights of the gospel. It'll also prove that you have the highlights of the gospel, which means you've read through the gospel with the teacher himself. That gives you a certain cultural authority that nobody else has and can't even get because you have to be here now in order to get that. Big up to everyone in the sound of my voice, and I mean that. Take in the blessing that I'm exuding to you right now. Take it in right now. I wish you health, love, awareness, and wealth. We stand on the H-Law. Our culture is about peace and prosperity, nothing else. No hate here, no sickness, no ignorance, poverty. We're not about that here. We're about love and unity. We're about having fun. This is what it's all about. So at the end of the day, make sure that you are being the Madhi, the Buddha, the Christ in somebody else's life. That's what it means to be a temple member. It's not just about rapping and stuff like that. It means be the answered blessing in somebody else's life. Be the positive force in someone else's life. And also be that positive force in your own life. Get up and pursue your dreams. Get up and fulfill your purpose. Get up and express the traits that your ancestors gave you. That's what this is all about. That's what the Temple of Hip Hop is all about. And that's what this study is all about. I thank you. I'll see you next week. Check out this film right now.
These people are the self-destruction, stop the violence movement, and you're about to watch the self-destruction video.
Peace.
Peace.
Hollywood, look out.
We all agree tonight, all of the speakers have agreed that America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, our people have a very serious problem.
Violence was a freestyle, because every time we went to do a show, somebody would start acting stupid. So we'd have something to say even as that was going on, because the music never stopped. So I wrote it as a freestyle, but then we never really did it, because, you know, it just never came around. We never had the opportunity to set it up right and do it. So I met these kids that made this beat. The beat goes, bo 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 bo. Well, the original musicians, I met them. They had a crew called Jam Rock Massive. Jam Rock Massive put out Stop the Violence, the first record, as a bootleg, because we did it together. And I said, if in fact I sell the record somewhere, I'll give you some credit on it and some points. We'll work out a deal. They did the music. I wrote the song and then mixed it. By that time I had signed the job, and I said, well, yo, that's still my record. Yo, what's up? They said, well, we want X amount of dollars and so on for the record. So I said, of course, we had nothing signed. I just said, all right, I'll just drop it and leave it at that. You do what you want with that, and I'm gonna do what I want with this. So I went and started my Stop the Violence beat, which is do-do-dum-dum-do-do-do-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. I went and put that out on the By All Means Necessary LP. What happened is that record became, of course, larger than the bootleg. And it became like a little anthem within hip-hop music. Stop the Violence in hip-hop, YO, okay. What happened is, jumped on the Dope Jam tour, rocking the Dope Jam tour. The last show of the Dope Jam tour was at Nassau Coliseum. Nassau Coliseum was like the most packed show out ever. It was like, you know, the show of shows for that session of time. But what happened was that the security, due to some other stuff, the security had quit on the tour. And when they quit, we had no security at Nassau Coliseum. You have Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, Staten Island, Long Island, Jersey in the house. They started bugging. What happened was this kid got killed over a gold chain there. Out of all the many things that went on that night, that seemed to be the zenith of the ignorance. He died because of his gold chain, stabbed in the heart, I think it was.
We were watching the concert, Boogie Down Production was performing, and the next thing I know, it just, a whole bunch of people just crowded into the corridor, but nothing had happened yet. So, you know, they had, one guy had saw me with my gold on, so he reached for my bracelet, one of my bracelets, because my hand was on the railing, and he grabbed for one of my bracelets. So when I turned, I grabbed him. And once I grabbed him, a whole crowd rushed behind me. When I turned around to see the crowd, it was just bodies flying at me. So I just ducked down. When I was ducked down, they just piled on top of me. And I didn't realize I was stabbed until until everything had, you know, it was all over. But by this time, my bracelet was gone, 3 chains were gone, my gold watch was gone, and a friend of mine had got hit, and because he was trying to help me out. The next thing I know, a friend of mine tells me all of this blood is on my pants, and I turn around and I lift my shirt up and blood just starts gushing out. So I go to the first aid office. When I go into the first aid office, it's crowded, you know, full of people that have been stabbed and cut, and you know, it's like, so it had to be like a little SWAT team going around, you know, cutting people up, stabbing them up. You know, that's crazy.
When I heard about the murder at the Nassau Coliseum, I was really shocked, and I knew what had happened because I had been at a previous show there about a couple of weeks before, which had been a PE show, and Run DMC had been on that show, which had been, I think it had been about a month before the Dope Jam show. And I saw the security guards watching violence and not doing anything. I saw the fact that the security guards disappeared at certain times in the show. So I saw the fact basically it was a very, inside the arena, the criminal element had control. Once you got outside, you saw mounted police on horses, etc., who were basically swinging at anything that was in the crowd, not at the criminal element, but at just kids in general. So I saw the fact that basically the manpower at the arena, in my opinion, had either been unwilling or afraid, for some reason, to really provide real security for the paying patrons, the people who come to see the show. So when I heard about the murder, which occurred about a month or so later at the Dope Jam show, I knew what had happened. I mean, there was no question in my mind what it went down. And I knew also how it would be played. It was not going to be played as an incident of inadequate security, which is what it was. And it was at many of these rap shows. It's an incident of they were going to say it was an incident of black-on-black violence, of rap violence, and that's the phrase that was utilized.
You go to Bruce Springsteen concert and you don't see any white boys killing each other, but you know, in a rap concert where the audience is predominantly black, it's all of this black-on-black crime, and it's like, you know, it's like a sickness that I think nobody's really paying attention to how deep, you know, the ramifications of that is. So it was really, really frustrating. You know, as a matter of fact, while I was on stage, I think that was the worst performance I had on the whole tour, because I was like tense, I wasn't loose, and it's almost to the point like I wanted to get on stage and preach. That they would kill somebody else's black over something like gold, you know, that they gonna sell probably to get some drugs or to get some money that they gonna use up in the next week, and then they gonna go out and do it again. You know, it's just like a cycle. You know, it makes no sense, not to me.
It's time for people in the rap music industry to begin to address not only their image problem, but the real issues that are causing the problem for the community. And so we decided to start the Stop the Violence movement.
We as adult black Americans have a large problem because we are not role models in our homes. We are not heroes, and we need to become heroes.
The artist response was incredible. I was not at all, I didn't want to approach any mainstream R&B people because I knew what it would be. It would be, I got to talk to my manager, my booking agent, my record companies right from the image. The people in rap knew what it was about immediately, and the response was incredible. We had to keep people off the record in order to try and get it done. That was that kind of response. And that's why we're able to do a video like we're able to do this music video, because they got up early in the morning, which rappers are not known for. Was there to do the job and to make the statement they wanted to make.
I know we're in Harlem. Where? Harlem. This is Harlem? Yeah, this is Harlem. What do you think this is?
I figured that it's time that we spoke up about this, you know, from the artist's point of view.
And we just feel that one of the primary duties of a rapper in this day and age is to become a positive role model in the minds and in the hearts of the children, because a lot of these kids don't have positive role models to look up to. In most neighborhoods, drug dealer is the role model. So, you know, if we could continue to do projects like this, then we show them something to look forward to.
We're totally against black-on-black crime, you know. I mean, it's so ridiculous in this day and time that our own brothers and sisters has got to pick up arms against one another. You know, we're killing ourselves off, man. And this is a definite message to all the young people.
We strongly believe that, you know, violence is nonsense, and we got to get together as one. And if you look around, you see a whole lot of different type of rappers here getting together to prove that everybody can get together.
That's the first time this has really happened. Because, you know, a lot of these brothers won't even speak to each other. You know what I'm saying? So the beauty of this is that regardless if we disagree on 99 things, we agree on one, that we need to come together.
We want to let the youth know that there are alternatives to crime in your community. There are alternatives to having disrespect for your brother and your sister. African Americans must come to the realization that if we do not help ourselves in this regard, we will be the greatest. We will bear the brunt of crime as it affects us.
I would have to say that there were several times during the recording of the record and the shooting of the video that I just didn't think it was going to happen.
The camera's going to be on the crane coming along this way, catching y'all as each of you do the lyrics. So you got to sit in the order that you kick the lyrics on the song, right? And then when it goes all the way to the end, to the last person, it's going to come up to show the crowd in the background. Okay, so it's important that you guys are sitting down in the right order. That's what I'm trying to get right now.
Sitting?
Yeah, seated here. That's how it's going to start. That's one of the master shots. All right?
What's standing up for the shot? We need you now.
Melody's right over here.
We need you over here. And Doug?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Glenn, we need you.
Melody.
What's up?
This is going out to all the youth. You know what I'm saying? Which is, you know, a lot of people that look up to us. We are role models. You know what I'm saying? So we got to do the right thing in front of them at all times. We got to say the right things in front of them at all times. And we got to try to teach them to strive for perfection, because that is the right direction. And if anything is wrong, then we will make a correction. And how we do that? Because we have a detection. You know what I'm saying? And that's what time it is, so we'll add it to the collection.
Slide down, guys. To where?
Slide down, we got separate.
Flay, you over here. You over here, Flay.
The idea of the video shoot itself just seemed to be so massive because we were going from place to place and we had so many artists and all the artists had their entourages with them, and I just don't know how they kept it together. I don't know how the people of Classic Concepts kept us all together, because between Nelson and I, we were like, you know, nervous wrecks.
We need a lane free. We need a nice space in there.
It really ain't the rap audience that's bugging. It's one or two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the mid. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you could unite and fight for what's right. Not negative cause. The way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives.
Pop, 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 when it's shot, who's to blame? Headlines, front page, and raps the name. MC Delight here to state the bottom line. The black on black crime was way before our time.
Took a brother's life with a knife as his wife. Cried cause he died a trifling death when he left his very last breath. Was I slept, so watch your step. Back in the 60s, our brothers and sisters were hanged. How could you gang bang? I never ever ran from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't have to run from a black man, cause that's self-destruction. Yeah, for self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, for self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, for self-destruction.
I would say Miss Melody, D-Nice, and probably some of the Stetsasonic brothers were the ones, Wise and Fuquan were the ones who the most debate was about. Because certain elements of people who wanted to be involved in the record felt that they weren't large enough. Miss Melody's record hadn't come out yet. And D-Nice had been working with Chris, but it wasn't acknowledged on his own yet. And I remember Miss Melody just being very pleasant and dealing with it very well. D-Nice had a lot more problems because he had a lot more conflicts. There was actually some conflicts that went on in the making of the record, and D-Nice was at the center of one of the conflicts. In fact, to this day, he has a rivalry of some kind with one of the other rappers involved in the project, which is interesting.
What's up? My name is Derek, but they call me D-Nice, and I am the producer of Self-Destruction. That came about because Chris, which y'all know as KRS-ONE, he really didn't have time to do the music, so he basically asked me to come up with a beat for it. And I came up with the beat that y'all hear. We submitted tapes to everyone to see how they liked it. A lot of people said it was okay, and they thought it could be better. And they really criticized me a lot for it, but I really thank them, because without their criticism, I really wouldn't have went back in the studio and did the best job that I thought I can do. You know, it would have been just that.
This is all about no doubt to stop violence. But first, let's have a moment of silence.
Dougie, again, someone everyone wanted to have on there, but it was hard getting a hold of him all the time. And when he came in, I never forget, he came in the night, he listened to the track after some other people had laid down their raps, and he wasn't totally with it. And Hank Shockley, who was associate producer, was there that night. And Hank actually and he sat in the studio and did some things. They really did some things with the track, because they had been working on Dougie's album. And Dougie, his section, the whole, he actually gave us a bridge. I mean, the record needed a bridge, and his section is actually the bridge to the record, because it has a kind of change of pace and his own instrumental stuff. Quite brilliant. I mean, Doug really came in. He had a feeling it needed to be more danceable, and he made sure that it worked. I mean, I think that his section, again, is one of the highlights. And that whole idea of using his voice and all that stuff in a moment of silence, that's all his, and it's all Dougie, and it's again, I think, again, some of his best work, actually.
instated, re-educated, evaluated, thoughts of the past have faded. The only thing left is the memories of our belated. And I hate it when someone dies for a silly little game.
It doesn't make you a big man, and to one and go and dish your brother, man, and you don't know that's part of the plan.
Rap music is a field, the man understands. Self-destruction, never self-destruction.
I mixed the record. Took me 2 days to mix it. I stayed in the studio for like about 36 hours, you know, straight, just to make sure that everybody on the record could have their own spotlight, even though they were already established artists. But I wanted to make it seem more than just everyone's rapping on this one record, so I switched the beat under, like if Public Enemy was rapping, I'd put Funky Drummer, you know, since they're known for using Funky Drummer and rocking it in various ways, I'd put Funky Drummer under it. And when Step was rhyming, I put what was Talking All That Jazz under while Step was rhyming. And you know, same thing goes with Light and Heavy D.
Here's the situation. Idiocy, nonsense, violence. Not a good policy, therefore we must ignore fighting and fussing. Heaven's at the door, so there'll be no bum rushing. Let's get together because we're falling apart. I heard a brother shot another, it broke my heart. I don't understand the difficulty, people. Love your brother, treat him as an equal. They call us animals, I don't agree with them. I'll prove them wrong, but right is what you're proving them. Take heed before I leave to what I'm saying, or we'll all be on our knees praying.
I remember being at a concert in Madison Square Garden. Heavy, how do I get on this record? Who do I have to talk to get on this record? I want to be on the record. He was like that about it. And when he came into the studio, his rap was already written. He and Kumo D were probably the two most professional and on point. And when I say they came in, they had their stuff ready, they did it, boom, they were in and out, just real sharp. The Stop the Violence record is really, I think will go down in history if you look at is a record which represents the New York mentality of rap and also the New York mentality of street life culture. I mean, the record really reflects the fact that people in New York went through their gangster stage. I mean, we don't have the gangs in New York in the late 80s, early 90s that they have in other parts of the country. For some reason, the chemistry here has not brought that about. And so we have a lot more consciousness, the whole Malcolm X movement, Afrocentricity, all of these positive things, understanding or appreciation of Islam as part of the continuity of religion, and that Christianity is not the only religion. All these different things that are going through black culture, you can see that are reflected in self-destruction. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be good about in the long run, that it's a document of a certain mentality that was going on.
Scott LaRock was like the original founder of Boogie Down Productions, him along with Chris. And you know, it was a real sad thing. It was a big loss. And he was kinda, you know, coming there for me. You know, that's one of the reasons why it happened. And I would never forget him. And I hope nobody out there ever forget him. You know, as long as I make records, people will know who Scott, you know, who he was.
Scott was down for that message also, you know. It's just a shame he died under the same circumstances as self-destruction is trying to prevent.
After he passed, you know, Chris didn't really want to get anyone else to DJ, so he basically put me in to do that job. So it was kind of bug how it happened.
You know, I came down to do this for the best. This is my man KRS-ONE. Why he's KRS-ONE? Because there's only one KRS, boy.
But there is a couple of delights, and here's one of them.
That's
MC
right.
Delight. Cool now.
That's right. And then they got Chicken Delight.
Mark, he's gonna just do a few. You heard somebody else, and as soon as he comes in, you gotta start to go up to the camera. I'm gonna start raising.
After I do on the part where I say, come on, right? Say, come on, and start coming down this way.
You said the joint is like this.
Okay.
The camera's starting to go up, right? All right, so then. But you still do the same move. You still go here.
Yeah, so I just end up right here. Right. So we got to keep ourselves in shape, or else just bang.
Right.
You really got an insight into how PE works, because Chucky written out both their parts Flavor's as well as his. And even the way it would be phrased, it was amazing. And he cut his vocal without, and he even did like Flavor's part, and then Flavor came in and overdubbed his part more or less. And, you know, the Classic Concepts crew can attest. We had to go out, because we never did get Chuck to the master shot. So we ended up getting Chuck, taping him out at the old recording radio station where they started in college, out at Adelphi, along with him in Terminator X. And actually it worked out very well visually. It gave us another element for the piece, though. At the time we thought it was going to be a disaster, and it worked out very well.
Spread out! Self-destruction! Spread out! Self-destruction! Everybody spread out! Spread out! Spread out! Spread out! Spread out! What up the peace sign?
Job to build and collect ourselves with intellect. To revolve, to evolve to self-respect. Cause we got to keep ourselves in check, or else it's self-destruction.
Self-destruction! Self-destruction! Up, 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 up!
Let's say a parent comes home and wants to play as Anita Baker, or she wants to play Anita Baker, and the child comes home and wants to play his or her Kool Moe Dee, and the parent will say, you know, like, why don't you cut that down? But the parent is going to his or her room, if the parent is around, and be what he or she is into. Therefore, because of the parent neglecting to communicate with his or her child, Kool Moe Dee takes the place of the parent, because the communication process is taking place. Kool Moe Dee is communicating something across to that child that the child can relate to.
Tuffy stag in front of the building like you was told.
In the blue, you need 2 sheets. It's half blue. 2 sheets makes a full blue.
You know,
First, Ann didn't want me to get down with this because she said my image was like a gangster. And she said she didn't want nobody that had an image like that to get down with this. And we convinced her that I was right for it, because I felt like if younger people and kids could see me in a Stop the Violence video, maybe they know it's for real.
Start tight on him, but as he comes up, start to motivate again.
Like this. Put your hand on the dial so we can walk this move out. Starts the lyrics like this. All right? Then he just gets up, comes to me. Keep on walking to me. Walk, walk, walk. Slowly, 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 slowly. You're on him full by the time he gets out of that gate.
Changed by the beast, you want people to start, I believe.
This is a tool that is underutilized. Rappers are talking to the kids, and the kids are listening.
Straight from the mouth of why and daddy-o. Do a crime, end up in jail, it gotta go. Cause you could do crime and get paid today, and tomorrow you're behind bars in the worst way.
Far from your family.
Cause you're locked away.
Now tell me.
Do you really think crime pays?
Scheming on taking what your brother had, you little sucker.
You talking all that jazz.
Yeah, that's right.
Get
I first got involved with the Stop the Violence program when Chris had originally done Stop the Violence. And Ian Carley, Nelson George thought that it would be a good idea if they incorporated various artists to kind of like spread the message a little further.
I'm not melody and I'm a boy get up. The bombs in back once cease and say. If we want to develop and grow to another level, we can't be guinea pigs for the devil. The enemy knows they're no fools because everyone knows the hip hop rules, so we gotta be.
I lost it. I almost fell off the chair.
No problem. No problem.
My part in the song is almost self-explanatory. I say that the violence in rap, I'm speaking of rap because that's where my career is, my life is in rap. And I want to let the rap audience know that the violence incorporated in our little clique, we have to stop it. And it has to start with the artists and, you know, even if you don't stop it at once, they hear the message.
Self-destruction, you had for self-destruction. Self-destruction, I'm Miss Melody and I'm a boy get up. The bombs in back once cease and say. If we want to develop and grow to another level, we can't be guinea pigs for the devil. The enemy knows they're no fools because everyone knows the hip hop rules, so we gotta get it and grab what's wrong. The opposition is weak and rap is strong.
This is all about no doubt to stop violence.
Be nice.
Go home? No?
Hi again.
Hi, how are you?
All
You
right.
know something? Every time I turn around, you're always in my face.
Cut.
Today's topic, self-destruction. You really ain't the rap audience is bugging. It's one of two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the middle. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right. Not negative cause. The way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives.
Pop, 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 when a shot, who's to blame? Headlines, front page, your rap is the name. MCs alike, here to state the bottom line. The black on black crime was way before our time.
Super rough black with a knife and fight. Try.
Delight was really, again, who came to a lot of meetings, was very involved. His speech at the press conference was one of the best. Just quite good and quite dedicated to the idea. I was impressed with that a lot. Daddy-O as well.
This particular project here, self-destruction, is dealing with specifically black-on-black violence.
Black on black crime, man, we only hurt ourselves. We make ourselves look like fools.
And you got to stop the killing of each other, putting our bloods in the street, black on black crime, stealing from each other. Like the Kumo D said, you know, it's a shame that we got to run from another black man.
Like the guys that are stealing and robbing are not even looking at it as a black on black thing. They're just, going for theirs and like, I'm gonna get as much jewelry or as much money as I can. And they're not looking at what they're doing to the race as a whole.
Basically what this is simply saying is, of course we're not trying to front, we're not telling the kids we made a record about self-destruction, so you should stop the violence. Nonsense. We're telling more the police officers and the industry that there's a more serious side to rap music than, yo man, blah, 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 talking about nothing. As you can see, everybody here is down for the cause, everybody here is rocking sincerely.
I think Chris has been the most consistent person in hip-hop and articulating a non-violent but realistic approach to dealing with these issues. I mean, Chris uses violent imagery, but it's very clear from his music, unlike a lot of other people who use violent images, this is a message, and the point he uses violence to illustrate a point of information. He's very, very good at doing that. And, I don't think there would have been a record, Stop the Violence Movement or Self-Destruction without Chris's participation.
It's one of two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the middle. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right. Not negative cause. The way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives.
Pop, pop, pop,
No, we have to. He's the opener. He's the opener. He's not gonna come out of the album.
Everyone, thank you very much. You all did fine. We just need to get some close-ups of D Nice and Just Ice. Everyone else. And
She
of course,
even
Miss
rhymes,
Melody.
she talks, and she knows what she doing.
So we're done. Thank you very much.
Live from New York. I don't care you in LA, I don't care you in Miami, I don't care you in Houston, I don't care you in Chicago, I don't care you in Detroit, I don't care you in Bangladesh. But wherever it goes, stop the violence. This is all I got to say.
It was like self-destruction in addition to the Jack of Spades movie, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker movie. Gold chains went out of season. Big thick chains was gone now. A more intelligent look came about the rap industry. And personally, I believe that it's because of movements like Boogie Down Productions, Stop the Violence Movement, Public Enemy, that has saved rap music, literally. If rap had gone on with its egotistical, sexist attitude, it would be dead right now. You'd be talking to Anthrax instead of Boogie Down Productions. But what happened was the consciousness of rap has been changed due to these movements. And people are really, whether it's a fad or true, people are looking to find themselves. And I think that's one of the biggest changes that jumped off, specifically coming out of the hand of the Stop the Violence movement, specifically. It was a movement, it was a fad that it was intelligence as a fad. And fads are laws, period.
A bad parent, a father alcoholic, a mother crackhead, that should be an example for us all the young people in here. It should serve as an example for what we should not be. Because we can use the bad example, right, as a strong leg to push on to something different, something positive. You see, because y'all the bridge to the next generation. So you got to be the best type of parent that y'all can be. You got to go back on that corner like my man Daddy-O said and pick up that black book and get an identity for yourself. Because once you have an identity for yourself, then you can establish a direction.
I guess I got involved through Nelson George because of I Cram to Understand You, which was like a pitch for no drugs because of Hamhead Sam.
Light was a first choice of everybody. Everyone, the minute we came with the idea, we wanted Light. Because she done Cram to Understand You, Sam, which was a great anti-crack record. And she had a certain kind of homegirl vulnerability and just credibility that we thought was essential for the record to work.
That's nice. You got this area pretty nice. You got to kind of work down a little bit.
Put one in the middle of the sign.
Please get out of the street. Thank you.
I gave all the statistics, a lot of stuff that actually appears in the video, I gave out to the artist when they were making up their raps. And she had come back with a rap which was very fact-based. And then she heard Kool Moe Dee's rap and a couple of others. She said, no. Mine is too fact. I need to have more flavor to it. And so she was in the studio one night just trying to come up with her rap. And the same night, this was at Chung King. So LL Cool J was doing his Panther album downstairs in one of the other rooms. So he came in, and they had this like playful banter going on. He would come in and flirt with her, and then he would give her a couple of lines, and he'd walk out. Then he'd come back 15 minutes later and flirt with her some more and give her another line. And she was like, just stay here and say, what did you say? What did you say? It was really funny. She was writing down what he said. So it was really, really a funny scene. Because he wouldn't be on the record, but he wanted to be on the record. So finally, he ended up giving her some of the best lines. And she took what she already had and mixed in his lines. Her rap is really a combination of her and LL, their only known collaboration.
Before I started rapping, I used to party a lot, and I know that's a scared feeling to be inside a club. You know, you come in to see somebody that you like to perform or whatever, or like to see perform, and then you have to start running from something. You don't know what it is because the crowd is like going crazy or whatever, so it's kind of hectic, this wild.
And what about when you're on stage? How do you feel when you're on stage? Like last night, did a fight break out when you were there, when you were on stage?
Yeah, in North Carolina. And they had to push me off of the stage, so I didn't feel anything but hands pushing me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like depressing, sort of, to see these things happen.
It's like you pay your money to go see a show, but you end up seeing a boxing match. You want to see a rap show. It's like frustrating, man. You know, people get scared to go places now. You can't sit around, do nothing without somebody trying to threaten your life or something.
You know, people don't even think when they start fighting. They just fight.
On the court. Everyone come back. I gotta get the people away. You're gonna start over here. You're gonna start right over here like this. Now hold it. This is why the split is important to get. You gotta get like, all right. No, you're fine. You're right over here. You're gonna start like right over here and come in like this to the camera. That's how you start your line. All right? So you're blocked here. You come in, and then I want us to see how you play it. All these people are turned. They only step back to you. You have the show canceled, the Latin Quarter closed due to violence. You got to kind of relate the lyrics to where you are. But your movement can only be like right here. You come back this far, you come in, you know, but I don't want you to go all the way back here, all right? You ever like, you know, want to like make a point to Kane, he's back, turn it back. Like that. Yeah, if you want to make a point to Kane, you just go like that, and he's going to turn around, you know. Not the five or whatever. But as soon as the music starts, I want everybody's back to be turned this way. Only when lights start to
Funky fresh dressed to impress, ready to party. Money in your pocket, dying to move your body. To get inside, you pay the whole $10. Scotch tape with a razor blade, taped to your collar. Leave the guns in the crack and the knobs alone. MC lights on the microphone, bum rushing and pushing, snatching and taxing. I can't understand why brothers don't be maxing. There's only one disco, they'll close one more. You ain't guarding the door, so what you got a gun for? Do you rob the rich and give to the poor? Yo, daddy-o. Just move this straight from the mouth. And daddy. Self-destruction, headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction, headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction, headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction, headed for self-destruction.
I believe in people, basically, and a lot of people think that's a really stupid, corny thing to do, and you're just going to get slapped down for doing it. This project, this record, the whole Stop the Violence movement has proved my point that people are the very, very thing that you should believe in, because that's what made this whole project happen. Everybody donating their time, arguing back and forth about how to do it, giving of themselves creatively. That's how this record happened. I think that's the best thing that came out of it.
I'd like to take this opportunity to give you a few of the details of the actual record. It was released on Martin Luther King's birthday this year, and on that day it played on about 50 radio stations across the country at 12 noon as a tribute to Dr. King. Since its release, we've had gross orders of about 100,000 units. That's combined 12-inch singles and cassette singles. And this week I'm happy to say that we were the Hot Shot debut entry in the Billboard Black Singles Chart. The record has also been released in the UK, where it's entered the pop charts at 75 this week, and it's scheduled for release in countries across Europe as well as Japan. All proceeds from this record, both domestic and worldwide, will be donated to the National Urban Youth programs involved in black and black crime and youth education.
These young people are united, bonded by a common cause to communicate the idea that crime is no longer acceptable in the African American community. We are all known to statistics. We have been victimized either directly or indirectly by crime. When compared to white Americans, it is a fact that African Americans are twice as likely to be victims of violent crimes and twice as likely to be robbed. 90% of robberies against blacks are committed by other blacks. 85% of the assaults in the black community are blacks assaulting blacks. 95% of all homicides are committed by blacks and are against other blacks. In fact, For African Americans, males ages 16 to 34, the leading cause of death is murder or homicide. Quite simply, if you think black-on-black crime isn't your problem, we say you should think again.
Where Flavor?
Hey, Ricky. I don't know, you should have been.
Damn, where Flavor? You gonna walk in crazy or what?
You doing something on the Stop the Violence campaign in rap, stopping black-on-black crime, stopping gang violence, drug-related violence, all unnecessary violence. Stop it right now.
Back up,
Back it up, please.
Back it up, please.
Back up.
Right, watch your back, folks. Watch your back.
Get down. Let's get that. Come on, just get in the front.
You got tired on the slope. All the people that's going to die. On the sidewalk. Show ass in the back.
Everybody say stop the violence! Everybody say stop the violence! That's what we did. A bunch of rappers got together and we put together a song to stop the violence. We here to stop black-on-black crime. Because we ain't with y'all killing and robbing each other. Y'all understand that? Y'all understand that? Alright, so you understand that that fist that you got up in the air is not to fight and kill your brother and sister, right? Alright, once again, everybody say stop the violence! Stop the violence!
The goal of the Stop the Violence movement is to make educators aware of the ability and willingness of rap artists to teach and reach the folks they say are unteachable and unreachable. Linking rap artists with the National Urban League surprised some people. Making the Urban League beneficiary of the Stop the Self-Destruction proceeds is not just good public relations. It is a black collection of black artists working with a black institution to deal with a black problem. It's a sort of social self-help that is essential in this era of social irresponsibility by the government. That's why we have the Stop the Violence movement.
We've made a lot of kids aware in a way that reached them about the problems of violence among people, about the problems of what happens if you don't take responsibility for yourself.
I think the most tangible thing is obviously the book, which is basically a collection of, I did a couple of essays. One is a history of how we made the record. Another is You Must Learn, which deals with the idea of education, self-awareness, and education as a tool against ignorance and a tool against violence. Which, in this part of that, we have a reading list supplied by Chuck D, KRS-ONE, and myself of books we recommend for young people to read. And there's another section in it that's inspired by Kumo D's rap, which deals with the whole question of black-on-black crime, and uses the whole analogy of the Ku Klux Klan that he started in his rap. And then also, I think most powerfully, are the letters from young people around the country, which were received as a result of a contest we had with Word Up magazine. Some of the letters, amazing stuff, in terms of just dealing with the experiences of kids, and 13, 14-year-old kids who've seen relatives murdered, who've seen people, bullets fly into their house. I mean, reading the letters the first time around, it really, when you hear a letter from a 13-year-old kid who's seen his cousin shot in front of his eyes, it really touches you. And I think that the letters in there that we use excerpts of were, some were quite amazing.
For the first time in probably nonprofit history, something directly towards the African, for the African, has been done specifically. In the future, we'll broaden it towards humanity, But this particular record and movement went specifically towards the African, I think.
But again, I think what really, for me, the idea, stop the violence, self-destruction, putting those ideas out in a world where kids are confronted with Rambo and images of violence, and violence is celebrated, not by black media, but by the mainstream of Hollywood, and try and give them something else to deal with. I mean, if you talk about violence, when you see a rapper in a video with a gun, he doesn't have the gun necessarily because the dope man has a gun. He has a gun because everything in American culture tells him that to be a man is to have a gun. That to be Sly, to be Arnold, to be even Eddie Murphy, you know, to be any of these icons of the culture, to be John Wayne, to be Don Johnson, is to have a gun and to be able to enforce your will through violence. That's the kind of mentality we're fighting. We're not just fighting a ghetto mentality at all. We're fighting a cultural mentality that's celebrated every Saturday night in this country. So a record like Self-Destruction is an attempt to try and deal not just with a black-on-black thing, though that's the nutshell. It's trying to deal with, we have a culture which celebrates violence as a way to manhood. So, I mean, it's not a black thing. This is one thing, it's not a black thing. It's an American thing. Bottom line, as long as there's poverty, as long as there's poor education, as long as there's no opportunities, there will be violence. Poverty creates violence. Whether you're in Ireland, Beirut, Johannesburg, or Cleveland, poverty creates violence. That's just the way it's always been in the world. What you have to try and do, and what things like this try and do, is say, look, you know, the social conditions lead you to steal, lead you to do other things, but you have to try and fight that. Because the bottom line, for me, is that it's a moral decision. There's always these moments of decision in your life where you decide what you're going to do. And if we can do anything to put an idea out there that's going to make you make a decision other than to do violence, then we've done something good.
So listen, for the children and for all the kids, you know, y'all striving the way of progress. We'll show you as much as we can along the way. You know, you got 125th Street, you got Harlem, you got a lot. There's a man out on the corner selling black books right now. You have to do what you have to do in order to learn about yourself and your culture. So y'all keep on striving. To the parents, in the words of Pee Wee Herman, I know who I am. Who are you? Peace.
We all agree tonight, all of the speakers have agreed that America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction.
Well, today's topic, self-destruction, it really ain't the rap audience that's bugging. It's one or two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the mid. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right. Not negative cause. The way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives.
Pop, 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 when it's shot, who's to blame? Headline, front page, and rap's the name. MC Delight here to state the bottom line. The black on black crime was way before our time.
Took a brother's life with a knife as his wife cried cause he died a trifling death when he left his very last breath. Was I slept, so watch your step. Back in the 60s, our brothers and sisters were hanged. How could you gangbang? I never ever ran from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't have to run from a black man, cause that's
self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
Funky fresh dressed to impress, ready to party. Money in your pocket, dying to move your body. To get inside, you pay the whole $10. Scotch tape with a razor blade taped to your collar. Leave the guns and the crack and the knives alone. MC MC lights on the microphone, bum rushing and pushing, snatching and taxing. I crammed understand why brothers don't be maxing. There's only one disco, they'll close one more. You ain't guarding the door, so what you got a gun for? Do you rob the rich and give to the poor? Yo, daddy-o.
Straight from the mouth. And daddy-o.
Do a crime.
End up in jail and gotta go.
Cause you could do crime and get paid today.
And tomorrow you're behind bars in the worst way.
Far from your family.
Cause you're locked away.
Now tell me.
Do you really think crime pays?
Scheming on taking what your brother had?
You little sucker. You talking all that jazz.
It's time to stand together in a unity. Cause if not, then yo, we're soon to be self-destroyed, unemployed. The rap race will be lost without a trace or a clue, but what to do is stop the violence and kick the science down the road that we call eternity, where knowledge is formed and you learn to be self-sufficient, independent. To teach to each is what rap intended, but society wants to invade. So do not walk this path that they laid. It's self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. The nice. Break it down like this.
Children growing, women producing, men go working, some do stealing.
Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction.
I'm Miss Melody and I'm a born-again rebel. The violence in rap must cease and settle. If we want to develop and grow to another level, we can't be guinea pigs for the devil. The enemy knows they're no fools because everyone knows the hip-hop rules. So we gotta get a grip and grab what's wrong. The opposition is weak and rap is strong.
This is all about, no doubt, to stop violence. But first, let's have a moment of silence. Swing. Things been stated, re-educated, evaluated. Thoughts of the past have faded. The only thing left is the memories of our belated. And I hate it when someone dies to get all hurt up for a silly gold chain by a chump. Word up. It doesn't make you a big man. And you wanna go and dish your brother, man. And you don't know that's part of the plan. Why? Cause rap music is in full demand. Understand?
Self-destruction. The head for self-destruction.
My name is Just Ice, a man, not a prankster. I was known as the gangster, but believe me, that is no fun. The time is now to unite everyone. You don't have to be soft to be for peace. Robbing and killing and murdering is the least. You don't have to be chained by the beast. But party people, it's time I release. Hey yo, here's the situation. Idiocy, nonsense, violence, not a good policy. Therefore, we must ignore fighting and fussing. Heaven's at the door, so there'll be no bum rushing. Let's get together because we're falling apart. I heard a brother shot another, it broke my heart. I don't understand the difficulty, people. Love your brother, treat him as an equal. They call us animals, I don't agree with them. I'll prove them wrong, but right is what you're proving them. Take heed before I leave to what I'm saying, or we'll all be on our knees praying.
The heavy D, deep in the heart of the matter. The self-destruction is served on a platter, making a day, not failing to anticipate. They got greedy, so they fell for the bait. That makes them a victim, picked and plucked. New jack in jails, but to the vets they're a duck. There's no one around, cause in jail you're a number. They never took the time to wonder about
self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction.
Yes, we urge to merge. We live for the love of our people, the hope they get along.
Yeah, so we did a song.
Getting a point to our brothers and sisters who don't know the time.
Boy, so we know the rhyme.
Instead in your head, you know our job to build and collect ourselves with intellect. To revolve, to evolve to self-respect. Cause we got to keep ourselves in check, or else it's
self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction.
I'm King News, and I come to you with the truth. The mean streets took 6 more lives overnight, all the result of gang-bang stupidity. By the way, you gangsters should know, one of your victims was a 3-year-old girl. Local gang members, you still don't get it, do you?
It's straight up madness everywhere I look. Used to be a straight A student, now it's a crook, robbing people just to smoke and shoot up. Used to have a crew cut, now he's a poop butt. Dropped out of school and he joins the neighborhood gang. Hanging on the street selling cane to his own people. Now when I say people, I mean color. You a stupid motherfucker.
Sisters, since we are the mothers of this earth, it's time we start being good mothers from the birth of our children. No time for sleeping, teach them to fight and win for the right reason. It's your time, it's your life, live it. Proud to be black, young and gifted, lifted by the knowledge and taking the right route. Gang violence needs to be wiped out.
One and the same, everyone came in the same chains, caught with the same aim, brain games, and names changed. Destroyed the blackmail, crack jail, and semi-automatic and static if the crack fails. So since we all talk the same slang, stop killing my brother, cause we're all from the same gang.
Don't you know we got to put our heads together? Make the change, cause we're all in the same game.
Now as a youth, I used to get my bang on, and on the app get my part-time slang on. One time for me was no joke though. They knew I was crazy, so they labeled me loco. Had these creeds going out feeling sporty, low riding and tossing up a 40, thinking in my mind that no one can handle us. The Dallas brothers never touched Los Angeles.
Being the pimps that we are, we're here to speak of a situation that is gone too far. Here at home in the ghettos of LA, where a young black brother's not promised to see the next day. Cause we used to come from the streets before we made beats, where fools just lay and pray on the weak. It don't depend on the color of a rag, cause if you got what they want, you know they're gonna take what you have. Cause violence don't only revolve from drugs and thugs and gangs that bang most times. It's a political thing. Yeah, a couple of spots to get popped, and then the government want the fix it, they can all get stopped.
Ice-T, ripping the microphone the way I do. Listen close, my brothers, cause I'm talking to you. The problem is we got a suicidal lifestyle, cause 90% of us are living foul and wild. I say job, you say bad joke. I'd rather jack another brother watch a gun smoke. Living in the fast lane, flipping like you're insane. You won't stop until your blood runs down the street drain.
Don't you know we got to put our heads together? Stop the fight.
Make the change.
Yo, we're not here to preach, yeah, because we're not ministers. We're telling it like it is, cause Ren and Dre is like sinister.
Reality speaks for itself when it's spoken.
A face head blunt can't bring nobody for smoking. Yo, bullets flying, mothers crying,
brothers dying,
lying in the streets, that's why we're trying to stop it from falling apart and going to waste, and keeping the smile off a white face.
And brothers killing other brothers. I thought the idea was to love one another. Open up the paper to one more death. If y'all keep this up, then there'll be no one left. I try my best to set an example, saying hype lyrics over hip-hop samples. Not just to brag, to boast, but to inform, cause I'm living in the calm before the storm. I'm in a rage. Oh yeah? Yo, why is that, G?
Other races, they say we act like rats in a cage. I tried to argue, but check it, every night in the news, we prove them suckers right, and I got the blues.
America,
get busy, Humpty.
The red, the white, the blue, and the blue and the red for Crips and Bloods, the white for who's got you doing time. Busting caps on one another.
The underground's down for peace among brothers.
Kill a black man?
What?
Yo, what are you, retarded?
Tell him, Humpty.
Yo, do you work for the Klan?
Do what you like.
Unless you like gang banging. Let's see how many brothers leave us hanging. Kicking on the air about 8:45. All the homies getting blind in an 8-ball line. Now on this tip, they started running at the lip. Jumped in the dukes and took a little trip. Hit the block about 12 on the tick. The windows went down and the nines went click. People started yelling, bodies started bailing. Bullets go flying, sending something to hell in. It's gotta stop, we don't need all the violence. Peace in the hood and I'm over the silence. We got together not for ego or fame. We got involved cause we're all in the same game.
Last but not least, yo, Easy's no sellout. And if you can't hang in the streets, then get the hell out. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You have your own freedom of choice who to listen to. You know good from bad, fat from foul, right from wrong. Now your mother singing that sad song. My baby ain't never hurt nobody, but he still got smoked at Baby's party. But you're not the first or the last. You're nothing but a short story from the past. You're dead now, not number one but a zero. Take notes from Eazy-E, the violent hero.
Don't you know we got to put our heads together?
I think one of the biggest social problems is ignorance and the lack of education and the miseducation of people, of the youth.
If you get firearms in America, firearms come into America, and what they do, they get in the black hands, and black people kill each other, man. That's the whole. That's the main social problem. If you take the guns away, then what we gonna kill each other with? Drugs.
Ignorance. You know how some people believe that racial problems stem from black to white to white to black. You know, racial injustice that really has no face.
Come on, everybody clap their hands one time. Come on, clap your hands, come on. Just clap your hands, everybody just hear yourself. Come on, hear yourself. Come on, everybody just hear yourself. Come on, everybody go side to side. Keep it going, come on.
What has happened is due to years and years and years of stereotypes, lies, miseducation, things like Christopher Columbus discovered America, Things like the war that was just fought over in Iraq and Iran is over. Things like that. We, at an organization called Human Education Against Lies, believe that these stereotypes and myths and not knowing people's cultures is what is making people fight and argue and kill one another. If I don't know your culture, I fail to know your achievements. I also fail to know who you are. I don't respect you, therefore I can kill you because you don't look like me. Everyone should know European history. Everyone should know African history, Asian history, etc., etc., etc.
We see that a lot of the problems that currently claim to be the main problems, like drugs, gangs, family problems, education, actually it's a big lie. The number one problem in the world is that people are being lied to about what the situation is, what the problem is. The record itself, I'm really impressed by it because projects like this, not only do we educate children, but it betters us as rappers, you know, doing positive things.
I got involved with the HEAL project by means of KRS and Miss Melody. They called me up, asked me to do a piece in it. I could write about anything I wanted to, whatever I had a problem with in this society or in this world. I could write about it, and that's what I did.
KRS-ONE ran up on my man DMC, you know what I'm saying? He said he wanted to put us in this hill, Human Education Against Lies, you know what I'm saying? Because when they did their last thing, you know what I mean, self-destruction, they kind of like left Run DMC out, you know what I'm saying? So I felt like that might have been a self-destruction amongst ourselves in the rap game, being that we so large as we is.
You know what I'm saying? Because the devil be lying, man.
So we said, yo, everybody was kicking it. We heard what everybody was talking about. We said we might as well kick it for AIDS because black people nowadays don't think they can catch AIDS. So DMC came up with this rhyme about AIDS.
I got involved with the HEAL movement because of KRS-ONE. I was already with the Stop the Violence movement, and I was invited to partake in little innuendo type things. So I decided what better way to come across the way you want to, because it gives you the option of rhyming about what you want to rhyme about.
My part of the song is heal yourself, you have to heal yourself. And that works, you know, in every aspect. You know, man and woman being a three-dimensional being, both mental, physical, and spiritual. And in each case, you know, we need to build that, you know, together.
I got in the project from KRS-ONE. He came to me and said, Capri, you need to come to the studio and get your voice on this record. We're all getting together. We put this record together called Human Education Against Lies, HEAL. Right? It's a record about human culture. It's like things that everybody spoke about things that went on in their life. You know what I'm saying? It's like little stories, little things that you could learn from. And I just put my little big mouth part and hit, you know what I'm saying?
As you can plainly see, we have the Demi.
Two Demi.
Two Demis, and actually. They're twins. Thank you. Is that
I had met KRS-ONE through Yo, and we'd wanted to work together on something. So KRS-ONE brought the HEAL project to me. He said, I've got this great video. Think about directing it. Listen to it. What do you think? I listened to it. I loved it. And I gave a copy to Jonathan, who was equally impressive, not only with KRS-ONE's earlier work, but with that particular project. And he said, let's do something together. I said, great, because we'd wanted to do something together for a while. And so we got together, put a concept together, got Fab Five Freddy involved and Pam Jenkins involved, and the four of us are directing it. And we took the song and split it up into 4 different areas. And each of us is responsible for a different area, but yet we're all putting input into the entire project with Chris.
I started trying to get in touch with KRS-ONE several months ago because I love his writing very much, and I'd love to make a movie with him someday, either as a writer, as an actor, or whatever. And eventually, through those efforts to talk to him about that, the subject of this video came up, and Chris invited me to become part of it. That excited me a lot because I think that the HEAL project is a tremendously important project. Human Education Against Lies. The way I interpret that is it's education against the kind of lies that have been institutionalized in the kind of history we're taught in the public school system here in America, which essentially gives a very racist, European-based version of history. And it excludes the importance and the achievements and the struggle of black people in America. So I'm all for, I want my children to be educated against those lies, and I hope that Chris's project goes a long way towards counterbalancing and influencing what gets taught in the public schools eventually.
HEAL to me means that in this day and age, we as a human race
have to put aside our insecurities, our hatred, our lack of understanding or respect for our fellow man or woman, and kind of come together and heal ourselves inwardly as well as on the outside.
With the situation with black Americans in America today, anything involving the word heal has to be positive. And of course, when KRS-ONE is at the helm of this mighty aircraft carrier that we're all involved in, then it's going to be a victorious mission. And, you know, everybody is being very conscious, being very aware, and kind of helping to inspire people that come from neighborhoods just like this one you see here to do the right thing and to know that there's hope within yourself.
Still doing the making of it. We just want to know how's it going, you know, so you live on it.
Well, everything's just fine. Listen, take one shot up there real quick. Just go straight up. You see that? That is what time of day it really is here. That is called a steady cam. And what we're doing is we're not editing this video at all. This is a straight shot. He's going to be floating through the sky on that crane over there, filming various recording artists do their piece.
Kane is going to, if you follow me, you can see that he's going to be down here, down the stairs. And essentially, he'll be talking about when he was a young boy and how his mother used to say not to do drugs. And we'll have a little boy that will play the younger Kane. And in the background behind him, it's sort of like a surrealist shot of this little boy playing with a marionette puppet. As Kane begins singing his lines, he'll walk up the stairs, and basically he'll end right here.
Mama said, don't do crack and smoke, you know, cause it'll make your nose grow like Pinocchio. Since I was only 15, I had to listen to what was said from a parent who's a Christian.
We just getting all the tweaks, we getting everything set up. Oh yeah. I just had to go over a few things for Freddie Fox's part, because all the directors, we love what he's doing so much. We wanted to amp it up. We got the ladies. Say hi, ladies.
Hi.
Everybody rise as I present to a jet black crowd what it's like to be black and proud in a world where white is right, but not tonight. This is a black man's mic.
I heard a sister say she don't like darker shades of black on a man cause that's whack, but to my light-skinned sister, can't you tell? You're just the surface of a dark, deep well. And how could you prefer to be with those that sprayed you with guns and hoses and never put roses on the graves of the slaves that they treated like dirt after all that hard work? And basically, yeah, basically it is, you know, that's kind of true because if anybody knows Fox, they know that I'm definitely a ladies' man, and if I see a nice-looking lady, I'm definitely gonna try to speak on it, you know. And one day I was rolling with a buddy of mine, and we seen a nice little young lady walking down the street. She was a lighter complexion type of lady, you know. And my friend spoke to her, and her friend said she don't like dark-skinned guys. So I kind of take a lot of things that really happen in reality and put them on wax, you know.
So you felt you had to heal that situation?
Yeah, so I healed the situation by speaking on it in a situation like this. And I see a lot of little kids around, you know, they screaming and they're jumping around, and they're on break from school, you know. And it's a shame that they have to go back in there and read in some social studies book that some white guy did this and Pilgrims did that, and you know, when there's really more to it, you know what I mean? And it's not about being prejudiced or being racist or anything. It's just about understanding the truth and reality of the human, the man, black man, you know?
So Fab, while I got you a moment alone, why don't you tell people about your part in the video and what it consists of and all of that? You know, you can just start.
Do I need to hold the mic?
You don't have to. I can boom you.
Whatever. Well, it consists of me being involved as one of the 4 directors. And the segment that I'm directing involves Freddie Fox. It was supposed to involve Freddie Fox and LL Cool J. Unfortunately, he's not around. So what we're going to be doing is for the segment, a Jeep is going to pull into the frame. It's going to come out of the previous section, which Pam Jenkins is directing with Big Daddy Kane. A Jeep's going to, this red Jeep right here, as a matter of fact, if you can whip over and get a quick shot of it, that Jeep's going to pull into frame. Freddie Fox is going to start his rap. He's going to get out of the Jeep, walk towards the Steadicam, drop down, deliver his lyrics real strong. Then the camera's going to pan over, and I'm going to also be involved in the next segment, which is supposed to be LL's segment, with several homeboys in the neighborhood.
Just go with the flow, man. You know what I'm saying?
Go with the flow. No problem.
No problem for this.
Don't really...
Yo.
Don't really play it into the camera. Just deal with, like, while we doing it, we like, yo, yeah, that's it, buddy.
Heal yourself, you got to heal yourself. Heal yourself, oh. In elementary, Light had the Jordache look, like me and any other kid who cared about books. But then I got wise, and I began to listen to the whack teachers in the wick-whack system. No, I used to shoot them, which means black school in Swahili.
School, extracurricular, you know, where I think it should be different classes or added classes to teach you, teach you other types of things, you know. Why don't they have Swahili as a language? Why is it always French and Spanish, you know? Stuff like that.
Come on, Light!
The portion that I'm involved with begins when MC Light comes on screen and follows through to Queen Latifah and delivers back to KRS-ONE. So I'm in very good company there, and I'm excited because they're all artists that I admire a lot.
Jane was never taught her life was worth something, but when people don't try to improve, it makes me want to hurt something. You want to be somebody and be a standout, but got your hand out. Oh, you're broke? I guess it's on to your man's house.
I chose to write about, a woman who wasn't taught that she was worth something, but never tried to improve herself. You know, she treated herself like a common garden tool instead of uplifting herself personally. And she depended on a man, for money and whatever else, when she should have depended on herself first and then joined them if they wanted to do that. So that's what I wrote about. Use gangs.
Let me tell you, Latifah, you've been a fabulous asset to this project.
Whenever you come to our home, we feel that it is thrice blessed. Once because we know you're coming, twice because you're there, thrice after you leave.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Oh man, this is human education against lies. You better know the flavor, kid. Human education against lies tries to open the eyes of humanity before it dies. Black and white ain't the real fight. That's the only thing the media hypes.
The only solution is organized revolution. That's the only solution. But people are afraid of that word revolution, so we like to use the word change. If you like change, you have to go out. There's two types of people in the world. People who will wait for the violence to stop, or people who want to stop the violence. If you want to wait for the violence to stop, well, you'll wait, and you'll allow yourself to be a victim of negativity for the rest of your life, waiting for it to stop. There are, in fact, the revolutionaries who are looking for a change and willing to make a change. Those people ultimately are rich, wealthy, influential men and women who feel as though after they leave the ghetto situation, they can't even come back. They have no need to come back. The solution is to gain economic power and then turn that economics into heal videos, self-destruction videos, so on. There's a whole networking. In addition to that, there are such individuals like Mr. Ted Demi here. You don't know this, really, but the reason you probably know rap music is because of this gentleman right here. Before him, rap really was just a Saturday, Friday thing on the radio, which was still cool, but this gentleman here, behind the scenes people, broadened it even more. Too bad he's a hoe. So, I'll be out of here. See ya.
And just when you thought you knew everything there was to know, you didn't know anything about this. Tell him, Melody.
Daddy's home every day since he lost his job. His new line of work is now beating up mom. Mom is scared, she doesn't know what to do. Her beautiful skin is now black and blue. I think that the social problem of today is the fact that no one wants to be the consciousness of anything. Everybody wants to be a chain reaction. This one does this, so you do that. And everybody's going around, so it's a vicious circle. And we all run around biting each other's butts. That's what I think is the social problem.
Specifically, I'm working on the Ms. Melody area and the Run DMC area in the Kid Capri finale, which is, Melody's coming out of her house, and we see this domestic problem going on behind it. We're going to capture that. And then we wanted to get the entire block involved in it because they've been really cooperative and great. So they're going to be all in the background for this entire thing to get them a chance to feel like they're involved, not just from, just from letting us be on their block, but being in the video. And Run DMC is just taking it because they're actually it's DMC and Jay.
DMC came up with this rhyme about AIDS, and we kicked it to Chris. Chris said, yo, y'all on. Human education against lies, you know what I'm saying?
For all the girls and all the guys.
Check it out, check, no disrespect.
For each and every member of the opposite sexes.
Yes, the messages, and I sent some. We never knew where the poison came from. Yo, we rapping on hills, so we don't be like to mention. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. AIDS, we're here to make you get wise. Human education against lies. Clap your hands to the beat. Come on and just clap your hands to the beat. Let me see you just clap your hands to the beat. Come on, just clap your hands to the beat. Oh man, they gonna be man, Kenny go out. He gotta go in the hillside. He gotta go in the hillside.
incredible Mac Daddy, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Yo MTV Rap Slam it.
Human Education Against Lies is an organization where you see where the money's gonna go. I think that's the most important thing. A lot of organizations, they have a fundraiser to raise money for so-and-so, and then after the fundraiser is over, that's the end, on to the next benefit. But this thing, you're gonna see what's gonna happen. You're gonna see the millions of free books that's gonna be given out to youth off the money that's made from HEAL. You're gonna see all the word warfare and all of the feeding hungry homeless people around the city and all the projects that we have coming up. So that's the most important thing about HEAL. You get to see where the money goes.
The HEAL record, which is the first single out on this album, it's a record called Heal Yourself, which features MC Lyte, Harmony, Big Daddy Kane, Lyte, Latifah, Freddie Fox, Run DMC, myself, KRS-ONE, your television should be glowing right about now, Run DMC, and of course Kid Capri and Miss Melody. And also, let me say that in addition to that, we had Third Base on the record, but due to contractual reasons, we had to edit them off. But they're still down in the project in spirit. Now, when we dropped this album, we raised maybe $1 million, 800,000. That money goes into the book. See the plan? The album sells, the book goes to you for free, forcing the educational system to take a look at what they are teaching you. We believe that before you are a race, an occupation, or a religion, you're a human being. And that's basically what HEAL is all about. Thank you, and goodbye. Please, no pictures, please.
Heal yourself, you got to.
Come on, everybody clap your hands one time. Come on, clap your hands, clap your hands. Come on, just clap your hands, everybody just heal yourself. Come on, heal yourself. Come on, everybody just heal yourself. Come on, everybody go side to side. Keep going, come on.
Mama said, don't do crack and smoke, you know, cause it'll make your nose grow like Pinocchio. Since I was only 15, I had to listen to what was said from a parent who's a Christian. I went to school and saw all my friends do it, but I said no, cause I ain't want my nose to grow. They started tripping on me, busting and flipping on me, so I had to front and say, yo, you slipping on me. I started smoking to prove I'm an adult. Now it's a habit, but is it all my fault? I wish my mother had told me the truth, cause now I'm all based out, Mardos.
Oh man, I like the way that's going down. Now what would you do is kick a little flavor, Freddie Fox.
Everybody rise as I present to a jet black crowd what it's like to be black and proud in a world where white is right but not tonight. This is a black man's mic. I heard a sister say she don't like darker shades of black on a man cause that's whack, but to my light-skinned sister, can't you tell? You're just the surface of a dark deep well. And how could you prefer to be with those that sprayed you with guns and hoses and never put roses on the graves of the slaves that they treated like dirt after all that hard work?
Clap your hands to the beat, come on, and just clap your hands to the beat.
WBDP Live. Special report.
HEAL, Human Education Against Lies, is the forward movement, moving for the only solution, which is revolution.
1,000 points of light.
They're not taught this in school, so we supplement the educational system. The human being's purpose is to serve humanity.
The war was a success.
We don't want to die. Human education against lies. Heal yourself, you got to heal yourself. Heal yourself, oh.
In elementary, Light had the Jordache look, like me and any other kid who cared about books. But then I got wise, and I began to listen to the whack teachers in the wick-wack system. My mother put me in where I used to shoot, which means black school in Swahili. And there is where I learned black history and how to be the best that I can be. I went back and now the school is closed. There's nowhere for black youth to go to be taught by brothers and sisters who knows what it means to be a black child or a white teen. In the end, the youth are being mistreated, which means the world is being cheated.
Jane was never taught her life was worth something. But when people don't try to improve, it makes me want to hurt something. You want to be somebody and be a standout, but got your hand out. Oh, you're broke? I guess it's on to your man's house. Brothers and sisters giving up the ball. Today it seems that 9 to 5 is just too hard. They call us skeezers, and you prove it to the worst. Honey, you have to earn the right to say it's ladies first.
Oh man, this is Human Education Against Lies. You better know the flavor, kid.
Human Education Against Lies tries to open the eyes of humanity before it dies. Black and white ain't the real fight. That's the only thing the media hypes. The real fight of these major corporations holding back on
or you're a color, first you're human. Teaching humanity is what we're doing.
And just when you thought you knew everything there was to know, you didn't know anything about this. Tell him, Melody.
Daddy's home every day since he lost his job. His new line of work is now being a mom. Mom is scared, she doesn't know what to do. Her beautiful skin is now black and blue. She used to cry, now she's back in the pen. A human war between woman and man.
Melody, Kid Capri, and
JMJ all the way.
Yo,
human education against lies.
To all the girls and to all the guys,
Get paid, get it made, get a good grade, live to a very old age. Check it out, check. No disrespect to each and every member of the opposite sexes. Yes, it is the messages, and I sent some. We never knew where the poison came from. Yo, we're rapping on hills, so we don't like to mention acquired immune deficiency syndrome. AIDS, we're here to make you get wise. Human education against lies.
clap your hands to the beat. Come on and just clap your hands to the beat. Let me see you just clap your hands to the beat. Come on and just clap your hands to the beat. Oh man, there go my main man Kenny Parker. He on the sideline, he got it going on. My main man Teddy Tag, he in the house, he kicking a little flavor right there. My name is the Kid Capri, and you know I got it going on. And we out of here, you know what I'm saying?
Good afternoon, everybody. I can't begin to speak or claim to speak on behalf of hip-hop and the culture which has been built over these last few decades without giving respect to my predecessor, Africa Bambaataa. And to all the rest of my brothers and sisters who are here on behalf of this art form which is blooming, growing, under attack, I guess whatever adjective you want to put against it. Hip-hop is, ducking bullets in many cases. My name is Harry Allen, hip-hop activist and media assassin. I respect your time, so I'm going to speak briefly, and afterwards, KRS-ONE will take the rest of the meeting, but he was gracious enough to let me start this. So let's start this. My presentation is entitled Black Art, Lost, Stolen, or Strayed. Now, I'm going to ask you a very simple question, and after I do, I want you to raise your hand if your response is yes. But I only want you to do this after I tell you to, and only if your answer is yes. Because if your answer is yes, you're the person that I want to be speaking to this afternoon. Here's the question. How many people believe that hip-hop, as an art form, and as an aggressive form of black art and imagination, should have a home? Now, don't raise your hand yet. How many people believe that there should be a place where hip-hop is archived, a place where the history is available through booklets or pamphlets or maybe even online by computer? How many people believe that there's a place, should be a place where hip-hop teaches and gives people information that they can use for hip-hop and for other things in their lives? How many believe there should be a place, a society, an academy, if you will, where awards are given for excellence in the field? How many people here believe that there should be a place where the records and the videos and the magazines and the photographs and the charts and the posters and the articles and on and on and on and on are kept for the future and preserved so that future generations will be able to understand what this form was, why it came to be, and why we were here? Now, if you believe this, raise your hand and keep it up. Now keep it up, because I want to ask you one more question. If you really do believe this, what have you done today, or even in the last week, to make sure this happens? Ask yourself this question. What is the proof of your belief? Okay. Put your hands down. Black art is lost, stolen, or strayed. You know, it's been said that if you go to the great African art museums of Europe, or even in this country, and we could talk about the Berlin Art Museum or many of the other art museums, and if you look at the African art in those museums, and if you look at the dates attached to the art, by taking those dates and taking the art where it's from and plotting it on a map, you can essentially outline the path of European conquest of the African continent, like a flow chart, like a graph, all throughout the last century. Now, is this your fate? Is this what's going to become of you? If you're a hip-hop artist, or if you're an industry professional, or if you're a person who's just concerned about this form that you've seen made out of nothing and turned into $1 billion business right before your very eyes in your lifetime, is this what's going to happen to you? Is this your fate, to basically be a marker, your work a marker to conquest, to the destruction of yourself? I'd like to refer to another example real quickly. What I have in my hand, marked up in red, is an article that was clipped from November of 1993 in Billboard. It's headlined, "Library of Congress to Digitize Bernstein." Now, this appeared, ironically, the same day that the Billboard rap issue appeared, where they have their celebration of hip-hop and what it is and everything. I'm just going to read a few paragraphs from this article. The Library of Congress landed a musical gold line November 8th when the estate of Leonard Bernstein decided to donate his personal and professional archives to the institution. Now, the library plans to share that wealth electronically. Now, as you may know, Leonard Bernstein is an American composer. West Side Story, I guess Porgy and Bess, a whole bunch of, very well renowned for his work, and he died last year. Donates his work to the Library of Congress. The Bernstein materials, which include more than 200 hours of film and video programs and 1,000 hours of recordings, as well as documents as unpublished musical, as well as such documents as unpublished musical sketches and lyrics and original music manuscripts, will be used to launch a planned electronic archive accessible to the public by computer. They're going to call this the Leonard Bernstein Multimedia Archives. Under such a system, all of the materials in the Bernstein collection, audio, video, and print, will be digitized or translated to the digital language for storage on a central database. In this form, the information can be accessed from a remote computer via modem. Once established, the Bernstein Multimedia Archive will serve as a model for a larger, long-range multimedia project, the library says. Now, why couldn't hip-hop music have something like this? Why couldn't a form that generates $1 billion in record sales alone have something like this if it wants to? Why can't a $1 billion art form have anything it wants? That's a question I'm asking you today because, respect to Herc, Cool Herc. We are now at a stage in the development of this form where, unlike the situation when people like Cool Herc and Africa Bambaataa were inventing this art out of our own black genius, we're now at a stage where there are people who are professionals in diverse areas, who know things, who have information. We're at a stage where Wu-Tang Clan can make an album for almost nothing, distribute it themselves, get picked up by a major, and then generate 500,000 copies in sales, millions and millions of dollars in revenue. But how much of that comes back to hip-hop? That's the question we have to answer, I guess, or be run over, or be left as monuments to our own destruction. I got tired of wondering about the answers to questions like this, so I came up with my own answer. I started an organization. It's called the Rhythm Cultural Institute. The agenda of the organization is to capture, keep for the future, aggressively define, and widely expand the discussion and definition of hip-hop music as a culture so that it can enrich us and so that it can make us better and so that we can get something from it besides music and good times. Now, the organization is for the most part unknown, which is the way I prefer it to be. I think it's better to let your work speak for you, and we're doing some things. We're getting some things done. Recently, we had a PSA produced, which was paid for by Def Jam Recordings, and it debuted during the Source Awards. We also had a ad, which was donated and which ran in their program, a copy of that, which I have here. You might remember seeing it if you went to the Source Awards or looked at the program. The board is formed by myself, David D. Cook from KMEL in Oakland, and Mary Kay Penn, who you probably haven't heard of, but she's a scholar, an anthropologist based here. The only anthropologist who, when I met, knew the lyrics to "I Know You Got Soul" by Rakim. So I, definitely knew I had to have her down. We're small. We're small, but we're politically astute, technologically savvy, legally and contractually curious. And obviously this is a message and this is an idea that people understand and want to be part of. Recently we got a grant from the New York Folklore Society for an application, and what this money will do will pay to have an archivist, a person whose job it is to take history, wrap it up, and make it last 500 years, come here to New York and sit down in front of a group like yourself or others and tell you, if you take this process of archiving, preserving, something that's usually pointed to mummies and, I guess, Renaissance art, and you point it at hip-hop, the art of our very hands, how would you do it? How would you make it happen? As well, we have plans to have a legislative aide from Albany come down here to New York City and tell you how, by using our juice, our power, our connections, we can get the money to do such a thing and implement such a vision. The fact is that hip-hop artists especially are people who have a lot of connections politically, are popular, have above average income, many, but do not use their political connections, do not use their influence, to make things happen for the form. We're unfortunately divided to a great extent, and hopefully this will change. Motto for black people should be build or be killed.
I've been attending meetings hosted by BAM for this, maybe not exact same theme, but the theme of unifying hip-hop as a culture, unifying artists, and having them organized in a fashion where they can control their political power, control their economic power, their creative power, etc., etc. What has happened is that over the past few years, BAM would get everyone together. We'd all come in the room, we say, yeah, yeah, yeah. Next day, we're gone, and nothing happens. This has happened over and over again. I've seen artists who will scream, BAM, Zulu Nation, Zulu, yeah, Zulu. And then the anniversary comes around, they're nowhere to be found. In my opinion, I feel as though that in the scheme of African thought, we always paid respects to our elders, and not that you're an elder, BAM, but we always paid respect to the people who have come before us, meaning that we could not have been in the situation that we're in unless we at least show acknowledgement. Sometimes that acknowledgement is shown through money, sometimes that acknowledgement is shown through just basic respect, just, yo, I recognize, and that's it. Today, the hip-hop community is dying because we fail to have this kind of respect. And it's not a matter of any of us going and saying, okay, Africa Bambaataa is God, Kool Herc is God, we gotta kneel to these icons, etc., etc. It's not on that level. It's on the level of, before we decided to pick up a mic, pick up a turntable, matter of fact, before we knew what it was, these gentlemen were out there doing this and doing that. And we do it differently now. They did it one way, Flash does it another way, Theodore does it another way, Herc does it one way. Then you got Run DMC and LL, and they do it their way. Then it's Eric B. and Rakim and KRS-ONE, Bismarck, and they do it their way. Now we're coming into a new phase in hip-hop, which has to do now with the world is doing it their way. And the difference between what has happened then and what is happening now is that for the first time in hip-hop history, hip-hop is no longer a New York-based thing. And I don't say that to say that it isn't. I'm saying that to say that the reality of what I look at now is that when you go to Japan, the Japanese kids are, I'm hip-hop. I'm hip-hop. You are not. I am. You're in my country now. And you can't tell me that you're not. And you can't tell me that I'm not. You go to Germany, this, that, and the other. California, Oakland, or California, the South, Miami, etc., etc. My point is that hip-hop is running away from us before our very eyes. And I used to always wonder years ago. I used to always say, "Wow, what was Chubby Checker and Chuck Berry and the Supremes? What were they doing to now have like a Nirvana? And if you see a black rock group now, you're amazed. Right. Wow, a black rock, Living Color. Wow, they're black and they do rock. That's like an amazement." When in actuality, again, I have to go into that, but we again are the originators of that art form as well. So my point here in starting, just press send. The point here in starting this discussion is that, number one, what I see going on in hip hop is that it's the same thing that went on in rock and roll, but we have a chance to stop it. We're allowing things to happen. We're just allowing certain things to just happen, and we're just watching them and saying, "Yeah, that's small. That really don't affect us. That's small too. That really don't affect us." Then, as much as I respect John Schechter and The Source for what they've done in rap, now we have John Schechter doing an award, giving us awards for our creativity. Now, let me be very clear in what I'm saying, because this is in no way a demise or a disrespect to The Source or any magazine for that matter. Could have been any magazine. But the point here is that everyone is giving themselves the ability to define our creativity. And the point here of this discussion, or the point that I'd like to interject, is to, for once and for all, define hip-hop. Hip-hop as the lifestyle, as the energy, as the way of life, as the organized way of life. And do it in a sense whereas we can put together a pamphlet or something. I don't want to call it rules, I don't want to call it regulations, but I mean, I guess during this conversation we'll come up with some name for it, but it should clearly define, and this is not a process that's going to take just today. This is the beginning. We're going to go on, and the purpose for you all to be here is to get several ideas as to what you think this certain question, how this question should be answered. If someone else disagrees, we should give everyone a chance to speak, of course. But ideas are created out of argument, out of this is what I think it is. Why do you think it's like that? Maybe it could be like this, etc., etc. So just to start it off, this book that I'm proposing is to be given to every record company and A&R person in the entire planet, the whole world. There's only a couple of thousand record companies that seem to be controlling our entire fate in their hand. There's only a couple of hundred magazines, only a couple of thousand television shows. If some sort of document or book or pamphlet can be put together that says this is what hip hop is and this is what we think it should be. This book is not something that will last forever. It's like, it might even have to be revised every 2 or 3 years. This is what hip hop is now in 1997. This is what it is now in this, that, and the other. We're documenting it now in 1994 based on not having documented it since its conception. We have a whole broad range of people who have history in their minds, who have certain thoughts and are pushing the forum forward. And this is the purpose, actually, of one of the purposes of why you're here. Let me just end off and say also that this book, in my mind, will be backed up by force. And when I say force, it doesn't always mean physical, but it means that too. But it doesn't always mean that. It means political force. In other words, there's a point to make to the A&R people who are signing rap, the guys giving in their tapes. If you're going to give in a tape and say, I'm in the rap, you have to define yourself. Are you going to be a rap artist or are you going to be a hip-hop artist? Because if you say you're going to be a hip-hop artist, well, this little book here put together by the minds of people in hip-hop is what you should know. This will also weed out who's not down and who really is. In addition to that, we won't have these problems that hip-hop is having because of rap artists. So this is the main focus of what I'm saying here today.
And we began our session by rearranging our chairs into a circle. And when the cipher was complete, KRS continued.
All right, well, let me start it off with question number one. Question number one being, what in our minds is the most important aspect to preserving the culture of hip hop? And when I say what in our minds is that, is in this day and age, is the most powerful means of preserving the culture politics, meaning you have to, hip hop needs more people in professional life, or does it mean that's going to hinder us? Matter of fact, I'll start it off like this. In our opinion, can you be a professional in hip hop?
Good question. I don't think so, because I think hip hop is a way of life. It's a culture. How do you become a professional in your way of life unless you live and go to the afterlife?
What about someone like, say like Jews, for instance, just say. That's a personal belief. Like say they would wear their, I'm talking about Orthodox Jews, they would wear their yarmulke, their whole thing, to work. And I mean, when you deal with them, you have to see they're Jewish, and you have to see, I mean, we're in a different circumstance.
But Brother Chris, being Jewish isn't like wearing a yarmulke and all that. That's in your ways and action. It's like brothers and sisters that live hip hop. It's a way of life.
For y'all to deal with the industry in hip hop, y'all gonna have to be organized, because you're dealing with some devious, evil people who've been robbing people since the 50s with the doo-wop groups, the same things in the 60s, same thing they're doing with hip hop. A lot of the rap groups don't know about the mechanical rights, the royalties, the licensing. You can have a cover over here that's one cover, in Europe or in some other Latin America would be a whole different cover, or they might even take your picture off. You gotta know about cable vision, you gotta be in tune with what's happening with the future. There's so many different things, like we need to get into professionalism in cable vision, because there's going to be 500 TV channels coming on, and they're going to need music, programming, video shows for this. We got to be organized, you got to have discipline, structure, and you're going to have professionalism, because that's what it did to take hip hop away from y'all. Because the hip hop community itself was not organized. So meaning now, the first death of hip hop they took away was the vinyl, meaning they got rid of the DJ. They didn't speak to the black or Latino community and saying, do you want to get rid of your turntables or vinyl? They say, boom, it's out, CDs is in, cassettes is in, and that's what happened. And we just go along with the program. A couple of us might argue and put on our record, we want vinyl, we want vinyl. They give, you know, your little bits to make you happy and shit, and then they might throw you a little money to shut the hell up. You got a lot of sellouts in the industry in hip hop. The only way we could do is dealing by an organized meeting of the minds, and it can't be this one meeting. We have to go down many meetings down there. It could be a year, 2 year, whatever, until we get this whole thing structured, a hip hop union organization.
And keep in mind that this discussion is taking place in 1994, before the internet and at the dawn of compact discs, satellite television, and digital radio. Africa Bambaataa foresaw all of what is going on today and warned us of what was to come. Only the wise listen.
See, we got to start working with the brothers or sisters that wants to be a doer of the word. The ones that want to do,
leave them on the side, because when the time comes around and the ones that's all into this material shit, they will get on the bandwagon once they see something materialistic to them. That's how many people just join a lot of unions. You think the Federation of Teachers waited for everybody to come together so they could deal with the Board of Education, or the unions that deal with construction workers, like the brothers, the black and Latino construction workers? They didn't start to say, well, the whites are not giving us no jobs working with construction. They got together and they went out there and started taking jobs and demanding their jobs. And the same way we gonna have to deal with the industry, because you're messing with some real devious people that's robbing the shit out of a lot of these artists. Even the ones that make crazy money in the industry, they still get involved. If you was to sit down and really talk to them in truth. You know, you don't want nobody that's gonna get in the limelight and show, oh, I got my cars, all the young ladies, I got my house and stuff. You know, really sit down and check with them how much is they really getting, or is the industry getting billions of money, or like Wu-Tang, if they sold so many, or how much money or percentage that they getting from the record companies.
You know, see, the thing is that we can't, our only alternative if we don't make it, we all live, you know, I can't say we all live hip hop, I personally do. But my only alternative, if I can't make it with a dance company or whatever, if I can't dance no more, it can't only be to scramble.
Right.
That's the point. My only alternative can't be my hustling. It has to be like something solid right there, bam. All right, cool. All right, I can't dance no more, or, you know, I can still dance, but, you know, if I can't dance no more, bam, we got a dance company going out. We have Get Original Dance Productions, and we're hiring from within the community. Okay, so we're doing this. We've set up a base for people who don't have the money to go take ballet or jazz or whatever, and that's already been taken away from us anyway, because those are all original African art forms. All right, now what we're doing is we're just like saying, okay, boom, these brothers out here don't have the money to join those things, and let's get them something. You have to get them involved with something that's more cultural, more meaningful to them, instead of wearing some tights. You know, if that's your own prerogative if a brother want to wear tights. But I know sisters that dance with us that want to get busy on some locking, popping, b-boying, whatever you want to, you know, whatever they want to do, and we take them on tour. So we have to just create these other outlets, and if you can't do it, you have to be able to bring people on that can still do it. And it's like those brothers who produce Vanilla Ice, those black people that produced them, okay? They made money on Vanilla Ice. I think that's dope. I mean, the shit is chuckable, but
I think,
you know, they make the money.
A real important aspect to preserving hip hop, I mean, I believe, is getting people to find esteem in hip hop. I've been teaching public schools for the last 4 years, and the one thing I noticed in teaching social studies is that the kids didn't see their immediate society as worth something studying. So things that I would do is I would say, okay, we're going to study hip hop. Hip hop is a society of people. You interact with one another. We're going to study the ways in which you interact, the ways in which your society manifests itself. The dance, the music, the hairstyles, the clothes, the fashion. Then I flipped it and said, well, let's see who makes money off of it. And I started bringing magazines in. I bought the Word Up in and the Rap Masters. Then I bought the Source in and the Vibe. And as we got higher in levels of getting across messages, we saw where the most money was going. I said, well, why is that? You know, we have to start seeing our community as something to have esteem in. In doing that, we define it. Like I said, I've been teaching school for the last 4 years. This is how I dress. When I put my locks in, I had a little friction with my boss, the principal. When I broke it down, I said, look, my locks is an expression of my culture, who I am as an African man. If there's a problem with me wearing my locks, then we'll have to take this further. If Jews can wear the locks off the side of their face and not see any feedback, or wear a yarmulke, I should be able to wear my hair that way. But it's getting people to say, yo, you're worth something, and if you're worth something, stand up for yourself. We as hip-hop community are worth something, we need to stand up for self.
Check it. One thing that I realized, a lot of people here define hip-hop in their own way, and I think that's a mistake. You see, in order for hip-hop to be a culture, you have to have every element. Culture is not just rap. And I think even though we hear it all the time, a lot of us, it don't sink in. See, culture is art, music, dance, the way you eat, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you walk, the whole nine. Now, I can sit here and say, yeah, we are this and blah, blah, but I'm not sure, because how many people here know how to do graffiti, or respect a graffiti writer, or hire a graffiti writer to do their album cover, as opposed to you know, whoever the hell. And how many people here really truly believe in b-boying, that hire b-boys, give b-boys props, you know what I'm saying, as an original hip-hop dance, as well as the new school dances, because it ain't really happening. There ain't no connection there. And I feel if we're going to make that connection, all right, we got to take every top rap artist, which to me means recording artist production, because all they know how to do is go into a studio and record, but can they get on stage and rock a crowd? If they can't, why are they on stage? Back in the days, MCs needed to be heard. The dancers needed to be seen. The art needed to be seen. You know what I'm saying? We got to get back to the original cultural mentality of the whole art form. Once we get everybody culturally based, then we can move. But right now, we're not treating it as a culture. We're treating it as a commodity. And when you treat it as a commodity, you're going to lose it.
Well, just to follow back on what he just said, I think first off, we have to get rid of the hypocrisy in this room. And with no offense to anybody in here, but for all the old school people in here, I'm Jacqueline Hines from Hip Hop Incorporation that called when first came up with the idea of museum, Hall of Fame turned into archive. I mean, these are things that I sit here and I'm offended and I'm saddened that you would say, you know, you got to be certain, you have to be this in hip hop, you got to do this in hip hop. Anybody that comes to me and says, I want to preserve the black woman for what it is today, I'm giving my all in all to that project. All I said is that come be a part of it, be on the board, participate. Instead, what I get is not people trying to assist in a museum that already has a provisional charter, that's already established, that's already that has already established all the groundwork. What I get is, oh, let me get an idea off of this so I could be first, or let me come to meetings and talk about what people have to be in hip hop. That's like saying black. A lot of people look at me and they say, well, you're not black because of your hair texture. Well, let me tell you, I'm more black than half of y'all in this room. And I know more about my culture than half of y'all. So to define people on the basis of how they look, well, you can't be hip hop, you can't be black. That's just bullshit. You have to define people by heart and where they gonna put their time. I don't know too many people that's going broke for hip hop. I'll tell you right now, I'm broke because of hip hop, and I'm getting into more expenses because of hip hop. And when people talk about they want to do something for hip hop, find out what their root cause is. Find out if they want to be the first. I don't care. There could be 5 museums up tomorrow about hip hop, but my museum will still be established because I know the concept and the thought and the heart that I have in it. It will always be successful. It's just you have to find out what they want out of the project. Is it they want to be first? Is it money they want? What is it that they want? Because I see a lot of times in hip hop, it's just that people don't want to assist other people because they want to be the first to have it. They want to have the money from it. I mean, I think that if you're going for money, I think every society needs an economic base, but that does not mean you have to drive a Benz. If we all live in the same community, we all eat, we live, and we happy, and we live in the life we're supposed to, like a village in Africa, then you don't need expensive clothes. You set your own standards. You don't have to live off of nobody else's standards.
After a brief comment by an unknown member of the Zulu Nation, Crazy Legs addressed Jacqueline Hines' remarks. Crazy Legs said,
You know what I'm saying? You know, I think we should hit the first thing she spoke on. I think it was something more personal with certain people in here. The fact that, I'll tell you straight up, when you first called me, I never heard of you in my life. And bottom line, most of the people that call me to get involved with projects, and I'm sure with certain other old school people in here, we don't know who they are. And don't forget, we were the first ones to get jerked. And we got jerked, so that means we've been getting jerked the longest. Oh. Let me finish.
No, we was the
first. So what happens is, since that we were jerked already, people try to insult our intelligence and try to say, okay, well, let me see if I can get this person to do it because they've done so much shit. They probably are so hard up for money right now. All right, blah, blah, blah. It's nothing personal against you. It's just that I'll tell you straight up, if you would have called me and KRS would have called me at the same time with the same idea, I definitely would have gone with KRS. Only because there's a certain part of me that is leery to get with anyone because of what I've been through. You forget, we did this out of innocence. There was no gimmick. We did it to come together in the community. Our alternative form of recreation. We were creating it, and we didn't even know what we were creating.
Exactly.
And then we realized that when places like the Roxy's and the Grill and Danceteria started opening, they were giving us guest lists of like 50 people here. Bam, got 100 people on his guest list. Legs, you got 50 people for your rock steady, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And meanwhile, all these white people that were coming in to see us, that were coming from the Bronx and Manhattan or whatever, were coming to see how we live. Instead of going to the jungle, they brought the jungle to the club, and we were the spectacle. So we're like, I realize that now. So I'm like, wait a second, I'm not going in the cage for no one else anymore.
I understand that, but I think the best way to, and I think that if KRS-ONE would have called me, and Tom Dick would have called me, and Tom Dick, I didn't know Tom Dick, and I don't know KRS-ONE, because I ain't never sat down and had a conversation with KRS-ONE. So what I would have done is sit down, have a conversation with KRS-ONE, had a conversation with Tom Dick, and then based on those two conversations, I would have made my decision. But I wouldn't jump the gun to say, because KRS-ONE. Excuse me. I think though what needs to be done is that y'all need to find out what is going on, because there's a hell of a lot of grassroots people that's doing a hell of a lot for hip hop, but because they are not well known or they don't have a celebrity attached to their name, they don't get the respect that they deserve.
It's because you don't have to be a celebrity, but where were all these grassroots people? See, people think hip hop started in the 80s. Where were all these grassroots people?
We weren't born.
Listen. No, okay, but there were other grassroots people there that totally ignored the ghetto. That's why we had to come up with our alternative form of recreation.
Y'all need to chill. We getting too much on the I syndrome. And let's think about the us syndrome and get some solutions of what's happening now.
If there be 2 museums, then y'all should be affiliated. I don't think it makes a difference how many museums. We should have 100 scattered all over the world.
I want to go back to the original question that Chris asked about preserving the culture. And I think the best point, this is just my personal, is the point that my man made over here, because I don't really have long to be here, but the one thing I want to say to y'all is that it ain't even about us, it's about them little shorties. That's right. The shorties is going to be the ones to preserve it, because we're going to be out of here. And I think that when people start thinking about hip hop, I think we need to start providing. I can't do no better than my man. He a teacher, and I know that's like in the gut. Cause I walk to public. My kids is in public school, and I be wishing I was a teacher sometimes. Cause the teachers be like stressed, and I be like, yo, I could do that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying I think that the issue of the kids and stuff, I think that's really important. I know a lot of people look at, I don't know how everybody feels about hip hop right now. I know a lot of people love it. I know some people here probably don't know what it is. I'm kind of mid-level. I wasn't with Legs and Bam and them, but I was in there like right after. You know what I mean? And I grew up on their tapes. That's about the closest I came. And I had my first, I'm old school Brooklyn with all of the guys, but I'm just saying I wasn't there with them. I think that, a lot of people might have discrepancies with rappers going and all of that. But I think that people need to realize that none of this stuff moves without young people. And young people are viewing rap artists and what they know as hip-hop a certain way. If we want to impact society in terms of the way they think about hip-hop, then I think that it's probably on 2 levels that them 2 guys are talking about, between Chris and my man right here. Because Chris seemed like he wanted to bum rush the executives, and I'm with him. Let's just beat up about 5 of them, and our message will be straight. We won't even have no more fucking problems. All y'all gotta do is call me. I'll do the beating, little as I am. That's what happens. You know what I'm saying? And on the other level, it's about impacting the shorty. On the other level, it's about these kids, because these kids are seeing a certain thing and they admiring a certain thing that goes on around the country. And they're the ones that end up making the difference. At the end of the day, it's them that make the difference. All of this shit that we going through and all that, it's because of kids. It might be white kids starting to feel our flow and their parents ain't feeling their flow, but it's all about kids. It ain't about adults at all. Most of the people I'm looking at is adults in this room. And it ain't about us at all. It's about them little shorties. Them little shorties will tell you if you whack or if you ain't whack. Straight off. Why you don't like so-and-so? Because he old to me now. Why you like Snoop? Oh, because da-da-da-da. Why you don't like that? I'm telling you, these shorties will tell you all in all. I mean, we don't really have to go through. All we got to do is listen to Chris records to find out about why, society, is fucking their head up the TV and all that. So all y'all got to do is off. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, the bottom line is that the only thing I wanted to say is that to answer the first question about preserving it, I think it's all about them little shorties. If we don't give them shorties something to look at that they can admire and that they want to touch out and that they want to be, then we ain't gonna win with them anyway. It's just gonna be somebody else to move in on their life and say I'm top dog, because that's all it is around the country. All these
TC Islam then proposed an apprenticeship program called the Zulu Media Education Project, where young people could get the technical skills needed to create their own jobs. He said as an example,
now say we have like a hip-hop DJ, like a DJ. He gets paid to show shorties how to DJ. See, what we need to do is start teaching these shorties how to do camera work. 9 times out of 10 was the biggest problem at shows. Yo, sound man, what's up with my dad? Go in the studio, I got a rock engineer trying to give me a hip-hop sound. But I got a shorty around my way who got a 4-tracker, and all he's doing is looping beats. He got an ear for this. So, but technically, he does not know how to go into the studio, and he look at a 24-track board and go, oh my God. But if he gets the technical training, not only does he have an ear for it, but he got the heart and the soul for it. So I take my man Shorty on tour. He's working in the studio with me. I got a sister who has a concept for rap videos, but does not know anything about editing, steady cams, or anything like that. Now she's getting the technical training at the age of 14, 15. So what we have to do is give them the opportunity to create their own jobs within this culture of hip-hop. And that's the only way it will be preserved. You understand where I'm coming from? You understand where I'm coming from? Yeah. Training the shorties, that will be taking them off the streets. We're giving them something that they love, because right now the carrots that are dangled in front of their faces are drugs, guns, these fake images of participating in the American dream, or should I say scheme, of things. You know what I'm saying? So we got to rescue our kids with what? This hip-hop, kid. You can get paid by doing this, man. Make your own job. You know what I'm saying? That's something you love doing.
Yeah, it's, the conversation we're having here is excellent, because a lot of vibes, thoughts are happening now. One thing, let me just reiterate, the original question was, can you be professional and be a part of hip-hop? Brother here mentioned that define professional. We never really got around to that. But let me throw it on the floor and say, number one, that in one breath, being professional is sort of like going through college. It's like, but just before you get to college, when you're taking the entrance exam, you know what you want to be, you know what you want to do, you're going to fight for this, you're going to fight for that. But then when you actually go through college, when you pick up your degree, you're somebody else. My point was, or is, can you be a part, can an Africa Bambaataa, can a Kool Herc be A&R at a record company? Play that game and be true to the cause. I'm not saying it can or can't happen. I'm still trying to figure out, can it?
Here's the example. You brothers taught us, who are right now in college, how to do that. You taught us that I can be criminal-minded and still make a contribution to my community with my double major in chemistry and biology. You told us that he can go back in the community and have his locks and be a professional and show these young kids, yo, you can do this and you can be that. So we can do that, and anybody who says you can't, you're wrong.
Right. But I think
you can't confine yourself to some parameters set up by somebody else. You got to define your own self the same way y'all did. The same way when I was growing up, you know what I'm saying? When I was the smartest kid in the class, everybody's like, yo, you corny, man, you whack. Nah, that's not the case. Yo, I'm going to use my mind to further myself and everybody else, and y'all showed me that I can do that. You know what I'm saying?
The way you can do that is, you gotta know that you can't let money become your God.
Right. Don't compromise.
You gotta be just like.
Wait, let let me raise one other thing. I'll give you a chance. I know you've been waiting. In terms of money being a god, right? We cannot. I mean, that will cloud everything. But the system in which we're under attack is capitalism, in which we are going to need some kind of economic plan.
No, I'm not saying that. You know you're gonna need economics, but what I'm saying, like selling out. Like if you feel like whatever I believe, I'm ready to die for. Now, if I say that if I feel that the company's not going my way, then I'm ready to quit.
Right.
And let somebody else take that job. I'm not gonna take the money you give me to sell out my people or to sell out hip hop. You know, offer big money that you're giving to me.
That's
I'm real with this.
Well, that's my point. If everybody is real with this, then we're going to wind up not being professional because we're not going to take the shit. We're not going to say, let's jerk this artist because he got dreads and this guy got jerry curls. We're going to go with him. You know to your heart that shit is whack. But if you say, I'm pushing these dreads right here, that's what it is, and you get fired. If we all do that, then we're going to wind up being in our nucleus again.
Now I think this is the way you do it. This is the way you do it. It goes back to what Harry was saying earlier. He was saying that, you walk through parks or whatever, and you see statues dedicated to leaders. When all actuality, the motherfucker you looking at ain't really lead shit. He was just the face man. Now you see the artist out on stage. He's the face man. What you need is somebody that's not involved in the politics of music that's saying, yo, you owe your allegiance to me. You fuck up, you got to answer to me.
Check it out.
So wait a minute. The person who is professional then cannot truthfully say that they are a part of hip hop. But they have to be accountable.
They have to be accountable to hip hop.
But if we're all doing it, see the problem is that we're not all doing it. See, if this side of the room is like, yo, fuck that, you gonna do this, and that side is like, nah, then there's a division that you can drive through. But if we're all saying, no, fuck that, we all doing it, you can't divide, you can't go through that. See?
I think we need to even go deeper than that. We have to deal with some sort of spirituality. If we're talking about building anything, we have to deal with spirituality. We have to understand what it means when we do something. Like this brother said about his job. Now, if we're going to build, what we're really doing is building a society. And part of society is what's wrong right now is we have no spirituality. So we have to bring spirituality back in effect. And once you have spirituality and you become strong within yourself, then you can define what is going to happen in your life. Yes, you may have just lost the best job you ever had because you demanded to hear rap music on your radio, but your spirituality will keep you strong and keep you moving, and things will only get better from there.
After a short debate with everyone throwing in ideas and many voices speaking at the same time, Africa Bambaataa again called the meeting to order by saying,
the whole structure, discipline, order. It still comes, whether you have professionalism, whether you don't have it, it still comes all under one roof as getting it all together under a union to put out ideas, to have structure, to have people accountable, and let them know if they fuck up, you out the door, and the next one is in. And you got to have a whole accountable, disciplined order, and the formulate a union, and we got to put our money where our mouth is and be doers of the words. One thing that we could learn from, watching the Nation of Islam is getting up and doing something for self. And that's what it all bows down to, that we got to get up and do something for self. Right now, hip-hop belongs to other people. And we got to take it back and put our mouth there. Get the ones that sitting on the higher top that got dough. Come on and sit down. Some of our basketball stars, other professionalism, because that's the only thing we have is our artists. We don't control the agencies that book us, just like we don't control where we live at.
But the ironic thing is, without us, they don't have shit. That's the whole bottom line. Without us, they don't check us out.
They organize us.
But the bigger irony is that they do have us.
No, they have some of us.
They have most of us.
On the real side,
they got $780 million of us.
Right,
exactly. We got to keep it real. I mean, I know everybody brother died for the cause and all that, but I'm going to be dead honest. Okay? Cool Hurt, man, y'all are from a dying breed of brothers out here called I don't give a fuck, I'm going for mine. That unity is dead, okay, because of infiltration. Right. That's why when they say about the sellout is only a sellout if his mind is warped to that extent. Okay, right now brothers in here is dealing about ESP, extra self-preservation. If it comes to your baby about to like starve and shit, but you down for the cause, fuck that, your child gotta eat. And that's how the mentality is. So we gotta realize we gotta keep it real. I mean, I'm down to go for mine to the highest, but when you feel you in a dying cause, you by yourself, you're just gonna get shot bad. Well, he stood for his, nigga out though.
You know what?
That's dead, man.
Check this out. A lot of brothers ain't selling out hip hop because you can't sell out what you was never down with.
When you didn't create it.
Now, what they're doing is basically selling out their souls. That's what they're doing because most of the brothers in the industry were never down with hip hop culture. Okay, so they don't even understand how to use it for the community because they're worried about their pockets.
Check this one thing, because I think for the most part we've been dancing around an issue for real. And the issue, when it comes down to it, is how do we acquire and maintain power? Because that's what it comes down to. Let me say a couple of things. In this professionalism piece, we don't want to confuse professionalism with white collarism, because those are two different and separate things. Professionalism means one that is proficient in a particular area, and the underline is and accepted by their peers. You see what I'm saying? So a doctor just can't go out and claim that he's a doctor. He has to go through a mental learning process and then still be accepted by his peers.
Right.
And when we develop that kind of professionalism, it's going to weed out all the fakers anyway. The second thing, we do need to come to a definition of hip-hop that needs to be distributed. We need to come to a collective decision on what hip-hop is and define it in a way that gives some leeway. In other words, don't be so focused, don't be so narrow that you define everybody out of it, but define it within a context that people who are down with it can fit into it in some way, shape, or form. And the last thing is that we can't talk about power, because what I don't want to see, and I just tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see an archive that has all of the history of hip-hop, but in the street, it's not reflective of what went into that institution. Wow. And we don't want hip-hop or anything else to go the way of the dodo in the street, even though you have an archive that's sitting there. And the archive idea is the first step to that preservation. The last thing is that we can't even talk about power in hip-hop as if it is divorced from power and organization of young people. We can't talk about it because you can't play ball with one hand. I mean, you can try, and some people are good, but you will never be as effective as being able to use both hands. You'll never be as effective. So if we're talking about serious, a political move, a social move, an economic move, then hip-hop as an industry, as a form, needs to also be about the political and economic and social organization of our people. If it's not about that, it's talking yin-yang.
That's it. Go ahead, to the side.
Right now, the bottom line is about money. All right? Money's going here, and it ain't concentrated in one place for hip-hop build this. See? We need somewhere, a hip-hop complex itself, a large place that every artist who come to New York, who's somebody, you have to come through there and perform. And that money goes somewhere for us, whatever we want to do with it. It's about money. It's about money and what hip-hop money could do for community and for our political wise. It's a force. It just haven't been harnessed yet. Alright? And we try to bring that shit under one fucking roof. That's all it is. We need somewhere that is hip-hop with a big fucking parking lot, a big fucking place to go everybody, so the police ain't got to come on horseback and chase us out of every fucking place that you can't get in. It got to be some place like that in California. Where is that? East Coast, West Coast, got to have a big fucking complex. And whoever made money off hip-hop got to be in that place. Otherwise, you can't go nowhere.
The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation society designed for the upliftment and promotion of hip-hop culture. Hip-hop is not just rap music. Hip-hop is beyond rap music. Rap is something we do. Hip-hop is something we live.
Hip-hop came from the streets, it came from us. It was an energy that the record companies gravitated towards.
Hip-hop is our child. It's our baby. We gave birth to it.
See, hip-hop taught me what love is, rap taught me what a thug is. I'm just trying to spit it.
We're still menacing. The name of hip-hop is still a ring, shivers through people's bones.
Right now there's a war between the state of hip-hop.
I stand here before you, a representative of something we call hip-hop culture. Words mean very little without definition. We are here to discuss the definition of hip-hop. Once we deal with the definition, meaning, purpose, intention of hip-hop, the words will change.
In rap, everybody's so focused on the hype and trying to live up to the hype.
You know, all the lyrics, the hoes, niggas, bitches. They need to have some type of control of what they portray themselves as, because a lot of these kids don't have parents in the house to show them that. That's wrong.
Since 1994, we've been having meetings about the preservation of hip-hop as a culture. This is when Harry Allen, the media assassin, held a discussion at the Schomburg Center for an organization called the Rhythm Cultural Institute.
Yo, they got me
at that
handcuffed.
meeting, I decided to document the history of hip-hop and also begin to teach spiritual principles through the language of hip-hop.
Open up their eyes and see through these lies. Discipline themselves yourself to stay alive. Not many.
This then went on to the creation of the Temple of Hip-Hop, which is at first a society that preserves hip-hop. This public safety issue is very simple.
One of the things that we haven't dealt with is how we've allowed ourselves to be degraded.
All day long on radio and television and print media,
Hoes, niggas, bitches.
if all you see are people like myself and yourself
Hoes, niggas, bitches.
depicted as criminals in these magazines with no other reference, it's now becoming a public safety issue.
Break it down. If you don't know me by now, why don't you ever know me? Never won a Grammy, won't win a Tony, but I'm not the only MC keeping it real.
Brothers get up there talking about killing people and they get on stage and thank God.
Our images shouldn't be played around with.
This is not a fan club. This is for people who are serious about hip-hop's preservation.
Tables turn as this process burn. Remember, you must learn.
So the Temple of Hip-Hop rose up and collected 29 paragraphs from various people in the industry to create the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace. This is a document that advises hip-hop culture on ways in which it can sustain peace and join into the peace process. It was very important to go to City Hall and receive proclamations.
It's a great pleasure to be here and to celebrate Hip Hop Week and the hip hop culture. Understand, I'm a student of hip hop. I'm proud to say that.
In junior high with the B+ grade. At the end of the day, I don't hit the R grade.
Hip hop culture is positive. That's what it came.
Don't waste your mind.
I've never seen any negative.
Believe in yourself.
Ever from KRS-ONE. A lot of times growing up with images and movies like For the Patch in the Bronx, sometimes you got a low self-esteem and a low pride about the Bronx during the late 70s and 80s. And then came this young man with a song called the South Bronx. The South Bronx, the South Bronx.
The South Bronx, the South Bronx, the South Bronx, 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 South Bronx.
Hip-hop culture is the collective character of hip-hop culture.
I'm not in a suit and tie, I'm driving around in my car with the assembly license. Police officers still pull me over because of the music that I'm listening to. Because they can't understand that a young man with a sweatshirt and jeans and boots and a hat listening to hip-hop could actually be the assembly person. And so we have to change that.
It's time for hip-hoppers to stand up.
Put your head, listen to these lyrics. Brother.
The leaders of today's hip-hop movement will continue to advance their cause for generations to come. Hip-hop has made a profound impact on our culture, our lives, and our world.
We then went to the United Nations and pretty much presented ourselves before an organization called UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization.
It is an honor that the hip-hop generation has joined us in this quest for peace in the world.
The Hip Hop Declaration of Peace is an informal document that we have put together.
And in this document is the first step to something legitimate and something real.
Wherever the elements, culture, and expressions of hip-hop and the term hip-hop manifests, this Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace shall govern its use and interpretation. Hip-hop respects the dignity and sanctity of life without discrimination or prejudice. Hip-hop culture demands that hip-hoppers work to eliminate poverty, speak out against injustices, and to shape a more caring society and a more peaceful world. Hip-hop does not participate in any form of hate at any time. Those who are not hip-hop are prohibited from explaining or interpreting hip-hop to others. Hip-hop respects the laws and agreements of its culture, its country, and those it does business with. Hip-hop is the name of our collective consciousness. As a conscious way of life, we recognize our influence on society, especially on children, and we forever shall keep the welfare of both in mind.
Let us all give a wonderful round of applause for the teacher, KRS-ONE.
Let's get right to the point. And I'm struggling with my voice because the more I use it, the better it gets. I screamed and yelled yesterday, and obviously my voice is a little raspy, but the more I use it, the better it gets. And I say that because the soul is the same way.
Peace and welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am Son One, an apprentice committed to the Temple of Hip Hop. And this presentation is produced to give you some information regarding the Temple of Hip Hop, its function, and its history.
These missions that we do, this mission that we're on, has been happening for the last 30 years. What you're sitting in is a long-standing tradition with hip hop. And this is the purpose for what we call the Temple of Hip Hop. We started in 1996, really before that, but the term Temple of Hip Hop didn't come to us until 1996. Like I said before, for 30 years, hip hop has been meeting like this and discussing itself.
We're not looking to make $1 million, we're looking to have a presence. Where people know that there's a legitimate force out there that is ran by legitimate people about this culture. If you have questions about the culture and you want legitimate answers, not yo man, you know what I'm saying, but legitimate answers that you can go and print somewhere in a college journal about a culture, you need to come see the Temple of Hip Hop.
The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation society which functions as an authentic hip hop ministry. We preach the attainment of peace, love, unity, and safely having fun through the mastery of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, and DJing.
What's up? How y'all doing? Yeah, now look, if y'all ain't hyped yet, you will be hyped before you leave here tonight. Because tonight we're going to establish the authority of hip-hop culture.
The mission began with the launch of the Stop the Violence movement in 1989, and then with Human Education Against Lies, HEAL, in 1991. In 1994, KRS-ONE declared, "I am hip-hop," and began to inspire the global hip-hop community to see itself beyond music entertainment. During this time, KRS-ONE would unify the essence of the hip-hop community around the development of hip-hop as a global culture, and how such a culture could be preserved and passed on to future generations. Others at the time had brought up the idea of rappers forming a union capable of providing health care and legal defense for rappers and DJs. But it was KRS-ONE that introduced the idea of hip-hop being an international culture of peace and prosperity for all those practicing hip-hop's cultural elements.
But the theme of unifying hip-hop as a culture, unifying artists, and having them organized in a fashion where they can control their political power, control their economic power, their creative power, etc., etc.
It was KRS-ONE that put the K in hip-hop's culture and actually did the work to unify hip-hop into a global community beyond entertainment. But such ideas would be met with fierce opposition and sabotage. Prominent hip-hop pioneers, journalists, professors, and artists alike refused to accept the idea of hip-hop becoming a legitimate global culture. They argued for its continued existence as a music genre, hip-hop. When KRS-ONE first stated, "I am hip-hop," his critics thought that he was speaking only of himself, that he alone was hip-hop. But what our teacher was saying was that not only did he realize that he was hip-hop itself, but that anyone participating in hip-hop was also hip-hop itself.
But someone else would say, yes, I am hip-hop. Now the two of us are united. I'm hip-hop, this person's hip-hop. Class don't matter. Gender don't matter. Race don't matter. Religion don't matter. Hip-hop is above all of that. You can be whatever you want to be. All we want to know is, can you break? Can you MC? Can you DJ? Can you do grab? Can you beatbox? What is your culture? What is the content of your character?
Through his songs, books, and lectures, over a 30-year period, KRS-ONE taught the hip-hop community about itself and made it cool to be intelligent. This is why he is hip-hop's official teacher.
Look in the back of this tag. You see in the back of, is that your tag? Yeah. There it is. There it is. Yeah, that's when the tag is pointing down to where the party's at. The tag was pointing where the party. That was the direction. Whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, you come this far, this is keep on coming down and step to the valley. Right. Down to the, you're going out to the water. Right. That was a turn down to the water. Right. Major Deacon Highway. Down to the top. Turn matter of fact, my girlfriend, my first girlfriend was trying to grade. This tries to play ball. That's me and Kenny. 72. You see the truck coming down? Yeah. When the inner steps there. All right. Okay. Taking it back. Now this park right here, used to stay filthy. You see all this right here? Only time the kids, anybody know, anytime, that's it. Remember, this is it. When the park is clean, earth is coming down. I said, you want me to come out here and play? Y'all gotta clean the park out. See, yeah. All that dirt is coming down here, man. It's not like that. Whoa. You couldn't come out, you was hearing madness. I was hearing it. You was hearing it. Oh shit, good. I live on the other side of the building here. Right. And this is the park right here. We was out our window. This is the daycare center. That daycare center's still there, man. Oh. This is where I belong to our first party for 70C. But this is the block party. I needed to verify the tag. That's it. Because only God would have positioned my mother like that. Word up! That is crazy. He had no idea what was going on. Right.
When no one else was thinking about hip-hop as a teachable subject, KRS-ONE was out there lecturing at universities, performing at sold-out concerts, and writing books pertaining to hip-hop years before it became fashionable to do so. In 1994, after declaring "I am hip-hop" for the first time, KRS-ONE held a Meeting of the Minds conference at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in Harlem, New York. Many pioneers were in attendance. This was the first time the question as to how to preserve hip-hop as a new global culture was properly asked.
With question number one being, what in our minds is the most important aspect to preserving the culture of hip-hop?
In 1997, the Temple of Hip-Hop held its first hip-hop census, which asked thousands of hip-hoppers their definitions of hip-hop and where hip-hop should be going. In the same year, the Temple of Hip-Hop held major public and private hip-hop cultural conferences all across the United States, seeking the proper definition, history, and purpose of hip-hop as an actual world culture.
Well, it started from myself. I was the first. Hip-hop to me right now is like it's on the course of a relay. I was the first guy who started off with the baton. You know, I started off like that. And the origin, West Indian background. I was born in the West Indies, from Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica.
Led by KRS-ONE, the Temple of Hip-Hop continued to produce many of these kinds of meetings and lectures, ultimately establishing Hip Hop Appreciation Week every third week in May in 1998, and then going on to declare hip-hop a legitimate world culture of peace and prosperity May 16, 2001 at the United Nations headquarters in New York. This gathering at the delegates' dining room revealed the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace.
Wherever the elements, culture, and expressions of hip-hop and the term hip-hop manifests, this Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace shall govern its use and interpretation. Hip-hop respects the dignity and sanctity of life without discrimination or prejudice. Hip-hop culture demands that hip-hoppers work to eliminate poverty, speak out against injustices, and to shape a more caring society and a more peaceful world. Hip-hop does not participate in any form of hate at any time. Those who are not hip-hop are prohibited from explaining or interpreting hip-hop to others. Hip-hop respects the laws and agreements of its culture, its country, and those it does business with. Hip-hop is the name of our collective consciousness. As a conscious way of life, we recognize our influence on society, especially on children, and we forever shall keep the welfare of both in mind.
This groundbreaking document is the only legally established, NGO-recognized agreement in the world regarding the existence of hip-hop as a legitimate global culture of peace and prosperity. It was at this historic gathering of serious scholars, UN delegates, artists, hip-hop pioneers, and journalists that the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace was established by hip-hop for hip-hop, with the ceremonial acknowledgement of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. As KRS-ONE stated at the signing of the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace, quote, "Now that we exist, there will never not be a time where we shall not exist. Even if hip-hop stops tomorrow, it will always be remembered. Its influences shall remain entrenched in the very fabric of the societies in which it existed. Our existence as a temple for hip-hop brings balance to hip-hop in world history. Knowing that hip-hop is the name of our social group in world history, it becomes obvious then that no one is going to intentionally protect, promote, and preserve hip-hop for the sake of hip-hop. This we are going to have to do for ourselves, and this is what it means to be hip-hop." End quote.
Before we get to the elements, the artistic elements, before we get to the performances, you got to ask yourself, what caused us to do that? Not the rapping, yo. What makes a person want to even do that? Well, what makes you even think that you can touch the turntable and manipulate it in such a way that it's now at the level of a guitar or a violin or a horn. You took an appliance, and because of your perception of the appliance changed, not you.
Membership with the Temple of Hip Hop begins with one securing a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop for oneself. Entry into our society of attuned hip hoppers begins with the study of the Gospel of Hip Hop on one's own time at one's own pace. Those with a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop are considered temple members. Everything about our temple, its meaning and purpose, its schedule and its mission is further explained there. Contentment and self-acceptance begins our ministry. The accurate documentation of hip-hop's existence in the world begins our archive. The teaching of an authentically hip-hop curriculum begins our school. And our unity around the overstandings of the gospel of hip-hop begins our society. Welcome to the Temple of Hip-Hop.
So in faith, we say, we know this is already done. We let it be. We are the people. And there it is. There it is. Thank you.